Twitter, we're live. Oh, we are live now.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the best of the floating comic book chat, people. Today
The
is
consistencies.
just Rasa and I.
Yeah.
And you, whoever is out there commenting. I see Gore Vidal is already there with us.
Hello.
Let's see. This morning, Gore read 2 Phantom comics. In one, the Phantom thwarts the murder of President Lincoln's son, Tad. In the other, the Phantom meets Miguel Cervantes and be inspired to write Don Quixote. Wow, the Phantom really gets around. I didn't realize he was...
Hey, Rez.
And we've got Rez here. I was going to call her Paz. She's now Rez Reads Podcast.
More mouthful.
I think she's still on YouTube, but as a podcast. Gore feels better. Ragga Muffin is here, starting off spicy.
Paulo Costa, I see as well.
Paulo, hello. Maybe listening to us while he should be working. So great. We've got a great bunch of people already.
Keep it down. The Giants game is on. Shoot, boo, your football. I think it's a football. Yeah.
I was gonna try to watch some What If so I could chat with you about it, but I failed to do so. My reading got too heavy.
So What If the last one I watched was the Thor? I think was the most chilled out What If out of them all. They were prior to that they were really serious, like really serious. But this one was the most hilarious one, and it's honestly one of the best, to be honest, because it was just so chilled.
I'll skip ahead to that one.
Yeah, I highly recommend to anybody, because if you just wanted to see what they all about with What Ifs, just watch the Thor episode. I think it's funny how Frigga was very involved in there, which was fantastic. But yeah, I just thinking about it makes me laugh. The another one which I watched as well was A Why the Last Man, the first episode.
Oh right, there's a lot of stuff coming out all of a sudden for us.
Yeah.
How was Why the Last Man? How was that?
Oh, it was great. I actually was surprised. I was really skeptical. I was like looking like judgingly, to be honest, every single like flip of the corner and everything. But so far what I've seen, it looks very promising. So hopefully, because I mean the Brian K. Warner and I forget the artist's name. Oh my God. Pia Guerra. Pia Guerra. They are mentioned there highly, like exclusive producers. So hopefully they're really, really involved in that TV
so
series.
They're both producers on the show. That's good.
Yeah, they was executive producers, as they call them. Like those. So hopefully it's by that. It looks like they are, because the way it really felt like a comic. And they had really good moments. Characters, I think you already know kind of. I was telling my husband always asks me questions like, why are you asking me? Do you want me to spoil it for you?
It's the superstar of your house.
Yeah. My son decided to just peek in, but anyway.
What's he doing?
Yeah, exactly. Always curious to see what I am doing anyway. And then, it looks like characters are really good already. Like I know what's going, already my mind is very fresh of the story. So I already kind of know what's going to happen. But how they presented people dying was really interesting. So we will see. Gore Vidal just saw a Sandman trailer, which reminded me of Harry Potter. Well, that's clear.
So it looks like we will be having a special surprise guest coming in a little bit.
Oh, okay.
I'm really glad on the Why the Last Man that they include Pia in that.
They mentioned both, which is great.
Usually the artist just gets left out, and I know that she had a big contribution to the way that series went. It feels like that could go on for seasons and seasons. To
be honest, the way they started the first episode, it was very intriguing. As I say, the part of how the the death happening was very curious to see. And I think, of course, it wasn't the same as the let's say first issue of the comic book for sure, because they have to make people interested to come back. But the way they ended it was surprising. And and generally, I think if you have read the story, or you would be, I wasn't unhappy. I was really pleased, to be honest, because kind of like you see people coming into fruition when you see it maybe on the television. So, and you have the monkey, which is CGI monkey, I presume, because surely monkey couldn't do all the stuff they were doing in there, but we never know. Hopefully it's some sort of, because better CGI than the real one. At the end of the day, we know that animals.
You don't want the monkey to be abused.
Yeah, because the life of a monkey will be quite interesting. But yeah, it's the main character as well as I forgot his name. Oh, Yorick. So Yorick, I think I remember the actor. I think he's like child actor. I think grown already child actor. But sorry for anybody watching. I don't know names, so I will not tell you all the names of the actors. But they're quite recognizable, I think, from TV, so something like that. So, and the sister as well. I think she's a recognizable actress as well. And I think I've seen her before. And she was her role is kind of vital at the end of the day, because what she's going to go through and stuff like that. So it will be interesting if that actress can pull it off. So we'll be I'm kind of looking through the kind of magnifying glass, to be honest, when I was watching that episode, but because bad experiences from the preacher and stuff, but so far.
Is this one of those things where they release them all at once, or just one?
No, weekly, once a week. So
if I jump on now, I would not be far behind, and I could.
No, because I kind of, to be honest, I'm kind of glad. My husband says I can binge watch. I mean, a lot of people do like that, but I think this kind of series, if it's intense, because it looks very intense, to be honest, if it's gonna continue being tense, I think it's better not to binge watch, because some of the details you keep on missing. And there's quite nice scenes there, especially with Monkey and Yorick, because they should basically give you quite a good spot, like from the whatever happens, and then what actually happens, and then how the story will go along with it. So, yeah, very pleasantly surprised. So, looking forward to the next one.
Gore is still on the offensive against Brian K. Vaughan. So he's making a subtle Saga reference there.
Yeah. I think that's why I have Saga everywhere. I've seen in people selling it off. I guess one thing mentions of his work, and everybody's just pushing out his other work to do. So I've seen if you watch because I do tend to go on eBay quite often just to see what's going on and what people are selling, and if I see anything deals wise, so I was looking at, and all Saga is everywhere. Just type in Brian K. Vaughan's, just Saga is only Saga. It's like, where's Wild Last Man? Because Wild Last Man, for example, my collection, I don't have #1 issue in Wild Last Man, which is really drives me a bit bonkers. I remember I was looking, but then the minute they announced the show, the issue #1 just skyrocketed to the levels of I'm not comfortable spending for one issue that kind of price,
Right.
So
is Y on Netflix?
No, it's on Disney Plus.
Oh, Disney Plus. Okay, good.
Yeah, it's on. In America, it's like FX, I think. Is that what kind of channel you have, guys? Or
that's a cable channel, FX. Yeah. Yeah.
So something like in UK, because I'm in UK, I'm getting that from Disney Plus.
So who knows then whether I can get it, whether I subscribe to it at the moment or not, I don't know.
Yeah,
there's also a childhood favorite science fiction series of mine, Foundation, is now coming out as a show. And I just found out about it, so I haven't seen it yet or know if it's any good or not.
Yeah, it's on the Apple Plus. It's
Apple Plus. Okay.
Yeah. So Apple. I don't. The best deal you can get from Apple, if you ever consider buying anything from Apple, I think they give you
a free month or free 3 months.
Yeah. Last year, for example, while the COVID was, when you were buying Apple product, you could get it a year subscription for free, which was the best deal you can get. Now you get 3 months for free. So if you guys are buying anything Apple, I guess you can ask them if you can get for your Apple TV for free.
I bought an iPhone a while ago, and they offered me 3 free months.
Yeah.
I didn't even take it, but maybe now I should.
I think you can still take it. I think it's part of your phone.
Yeah, I think I might have a year to take it or something. And Scott says why here is available on Hulu, so that would be the way I would watch it.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah,
so
I imagine Scott, like me, probably read Foundation books when he was young.
I'm very curious. I wanted to watch it, but unfortunately, I didn't get anything Apple recently. So, oh wait, maybe my husband can do it. Oh, no, I know. Anyway, so just trying to get those 3 months because Apple. If you guys are interested in Apple, Ted Lasso is extremely entertaining TV show. If you haven't watched,
I don't know.
That is about football, actual soccer in America. You people don't know what's football. We call it in Europe football, but you guys call it soccer. But it's very, very hilarious. And for us, the people who watch us in the UK, there's lots of great actors there, and they are really, really good. Yeah, Ted Lasso is absolutely fantastic. You just have those great acting scenes, and I think they even got some Emmys or rewards for that kind of show. Actually, I was mentioning like last year, everybody didn't even know what I was talking about. It's like, go watch Ted Lasso. Come on, guys, it's really funny. It's like a really good comedy, so you can guys watch it out as well if you.
I'm sorry, there are 2 Scotts watching right now, and I was thinking about Scott Connor at first.
Yeah.
And there's Scott Edelman, who I'm sure has read Asimov's Foundation. Wow, Gore has not read Asimov's Foundation. You may be too old now, Gore. I mean, it's not bad, but I think it makes a big impression when you're young.
Isn't it? Because I read a couple of things of Asimov, and he always does science fiction, which I really enjoyed, what I read. So, and I think he's... one of the...
It's very old school science fiction without a whole lot of characterization.
Yeah. Because the actors I've seen, I saw the picture of the poster, I guess, whatever it's called. And the actors there looks interesting, part of the crew, so it would be interesting to see as well. Yeah.
Okay, our special surprise guest is going to pop in.
Oh.
Hey guys, how are you?
Hello.
Hey Rasa, it's been so long. I missed you guys.
It's been a while, huh?
One of the best of the old school YouTube comic book community is back.
I know, right?
the oldies are back.
Yay, you're for the oldies.
Why those kids? You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's nice to jump on. You know, I was actually reading too, so I was like, I'm reading. Cleaning a little bit, going back to a chapter. So it's nice to come on.
Good.
I guess I said something ageist. I said he's too old to read Asimov now, if he hasn't already. Probably not true. So you are back on YouTube. You've... from what I've seen, you've done 1 podcast so far with your interviewing that horror comic book writer. I'm trying to remember his name now.
Yeah, James McCulloch.
James McCulloch.
Yeah. I interviewed him. It was exactly 5 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. And I said, it's time for like an anniversary. For that interview, I just kept going over. I wanted to keep a lot of my old material posted, but then I thought about it. Things are kind of going in a different direction with my life. And I thought, let me go ahead and come back on and then talk to him as like a prequel to the new channel. So I'm really excited. I started kind of segueing back into it by reading a lot more novels, and then getting back into graphic novels. And then now I'm kind of every now and again going back through my old collection that I managed to keep. And now I said, I think I'm ready. I'm ready to come back on.
Cool. Well, you can talk about anything you've been reading here. We usually talk about comics, but we're happy to hear about novels too, if you want to do that.
Yeah, I guess just in the vein of things, I've been, brushing up on PKD. I was digging into a little bit of Asimov.
Dick, for those who don't know.
Yeah, I'm a dickhead, you guys. But I've started recently getting back into Junji Ito,
Yeah.
the newest
I
releases.
have just started reading Junji Ito for the first time.
Yeah, I've been reading Junji Ito for a long time, for years, almost close to a decade, and I had to get rid of a lot of his stuff when I sold a lot of my collection. So I was really sad, and when I almost didn't want to pick it up because it reminded me of how I got rid of a lot of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, you know what? I can do this. I can get it. I got it because the cover is so beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, I picked it up because it was such a pretty book, and it looks cool underneath the cover too, right?
Yeah, and the illustrations are so nice. As you guys know, with manga, you read in a different manner, a different direction. But I had to get it. I'd say first and foremost, I've always been a huge horror fan, but then following up, I'm a huge science fiction, more hard science fiction. So then when you have like a combination of both, you're like, you got me hook, line, and sinker. So
Have you had a chance to read Censor yet?
I've read a little bit, not enough to give a synopsis, like a review of how I feel about it.
Okay.
I think in between reading this and then watching a lot of my favorite horror stuff and watching movies, I'm still kind of reading it a little bit.
Cool. Well,
I don't digest
a Junji Ito thing I'm going to talk about later too.
Yeah,
well, I've read some new comics too lately.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I said I've read some new comics lately. I picked up one. I was at the Barnes & Noble and I found one by Brubaker and Sean Phillips, that newest one. I started reading that.
The Reckless.
Yeah, and I read a few other independent ones, of course, but they were not very memorable.
Okay. Well, so what we do here is we kind of go around the circle and share something we've read and our thoughts about it, and then it's the next person's turn.
Yeah, okay.
So maybe would you feel good starting it off, Rasa?
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay, cool. I'm thinking what I should talk about. I haven't read that many comics this week, so forgive me. So I was like,
we will forgive you.
Yeah, don't read that much. Don't have time at the moment. So, the one I will talk about is I went back and I started reading. I was thinking I want to read because after watching that What If Thor series, I wanted to make sure to see if I was curious to see Jason Aaron's Esad Ribbit, because I kind of miss Esad Ribbit art. So I was just going through the single issues. So I read this #1 issue once again. And it starts really lovely, to be honest. It goes to the past and then how Thor was doing his things like drinking too much mead, having too many female friends, and then killing too many giants. But then
young wild days for Thor.
Yeah, and then suddenly there's people.
That's Thor before he has a hammer, right? Does he just have an axe?
Yes. So that's the young Thor. So this is because this story is containing young Thor, then this day Thor, and then the past Thor in the storyline. So this is introduction to that God Butcher. Everybody is going to be raving about, I guess, if movie will be going in that direction as well. Thor in here is basically in the younger side. They discovered this head, and then he knows that this is a god who's being killed, but he didn't know who can kill the gods, and people are starting to panic, of course. And then Thor's like, "No, don't worry, guys. Let's go drink a mead. Let's be happy. I'll sort this out. I'll find out what's happening." And then this day and age, Thor, in this, you see this land called Planet Indigo, who basically they don't have water, and this little girl started to pray to Thor to come in and help them, because he's going to call him Funza, he's going to bring this water, and then of course he's coming in to save them. And it was they say it's basically discovered that they don't even know what gods are anymore because they've been forgotten. And Thor is like, what is going on here? I mean, I know there's plenty of gods to be chosen from, and where's your gods are? And they say, we don't know them, it's just a fairy tales. And then they were laughing, and Thor was really upset about it, like saying, how dare you, like I could kill you for that kind of words, like because I am the god kind of thing. So he goes into is and discovers that actual gods of that Indiga planet has really nice page of them being hanged to death. And then he discovers that actually they were murdered. And nobody kind of like, oh, how the people can kill, gods like this, giants like this, whole family slain and actually torture slowly, because apparently gods and their flesh don't rotten or don't die so quickly. And if you can use them, you can torture them as much as you want, or your fancy is. And they basically, because the bodies he found, they were like 200 years old, apparently, to him. Somehow he knew that age as well. And then he started fighting this, and this is his first clue for Thor to understand who is behind it. They actually even mentioned his name, the main culprit in here, which is, I was surprised, because I don't remember if I kind of like, when you read your weekly comic books, and that time I was reading weekly, sometimes you miss details. So when you go back to it now after a while, it's kind of like more attentive to a story. And then you have, of course, the third chapter of the storyline is you see Thor being old, withered, with a different hand. I think it's that hand is like looks almost the same of that.
The destroyer.
Yeah, exactly.
He somehow has the destroyer's arm on.
Yeah, because he got his hand chopped, and then they put in that destroyers things, and then he has sword as well, and he's only have one eye. Almost looks. I remember when I was reading the story, it's saying that I almost looked like Odin to me. At first, I was kind of confused, but then he says in here, for the Odysseus. So you're like, oh, okay, so this is the past of him. And what I like about Esad is that he doesn't have those inking lines. It's just the pencils. So if he has a great colorist, it's just art is just pops so nicely. And I think, I don't know if it's
Matthew
mentioned.
Wilson?
I don't know. I don't know where to look for the people who. Oh yeah, there you go. No, it's Dean White.
Oh, Dean White. He's an excellent colorist too.
Yeah, so Dean White is a colorist, Esad Ribic is an artist, and Jason Aaron. So it's right at the end of the page. It's like, where is it? Because it's nice old school. You know exactly where to look for your kind of like things. But yeah, this is really interesting. I mean, it's just really made me wanted to read furthermore. So hopefully I have enough. I don't know. I don't remember if I finished the story completely collecting, or did I actually had just like weighed off, I think, after a while. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna probably go back, because I just really like the way Esad drawing Thor.
Yes.
And the way he's just as even the cover looks so simple, but at the same time very complicated. What you have, as I said, if Dean White is involved, Dean White has.
As long as he has a good colorist, his style is really incredible.
Yeah.
But what was I going to say? Just seeing you show it reminded me how amazing it was to have Thor drawn by him. I'm kind of sad that we don't have that anymore.
That's the thing. It's quite expensive to have him to do the stuff. I think it's at the end of the day. He does it now. They're only like specials, I think, in Marvel.
Right now, he's doing a mini series about the Eternals, and it looks great, but it's a really boring comic book. So that's really sad.
Yeah.
So the next issue, I think, is considered the first appearance of Gore, and people are now paying a lot of money for it.
I'll show you.
I think Terrence got his copy slabbed. So
this is the book of everybody's envy who doesn't have it, of course. But yeah, if I'm not Comickkrak's, like I'm not Kingpin like Comickkrakk, slabbing my comic books and selling them just because they want money.
Right.
So yeah, it's kind of but yeah, I have it. I'm okay.
I have
with
it too. It makes me just feel good. Haha, I have this expensive comic.
To be honest, it's nice to it's just okay to have it, rather than, because at the end of the day, like you don't have to have an absorbent amount of money to spend just to connect to your collection. Like there's a lot of things what gaps usually in people's collections are. It's because of those first appearances, and these days they just go out of crazy with all the stuff. But yeah, it's great to have that. But yeah, it's wonderful to read Jason Aaron's Thor. I mean, the way he's writing it is just so fairy tale-y, like the folklore kind of type of a storytelling, and it's just like you can tell that story basically to your kids. To be honest, there's nothing grotesque, to be honest, yet.
Right.
I mean, there's the butcher, but the way they
kind
do
of scary, I guess.
yeah, but the way they show the grotesque part is actually quite nicely mellowed, to be honest. In this first issue, I think in the other ones, when Gore starts doing his job, it's not really pretty anymore, not for kids anymore. But yeah, I really like.
Has anyone heard of John Norman's Gore?
No, who's that?
He was a science fiction writer in the 60s and 70s who made up a planet where all women are slaves.
Oh,
and they would kidnap Earth women, bring them to this planet, and the Earth women would be all rebellious. They didn't want to be slaves. But at the end, the women learned they loved being slaves.
Oh,
it was
is that
a very sexist S&M sex fantasy science fiction.
Very sadomasochism.
Well, that's why probably I don't know John Norman then. I'm not interested.
So his fame has faded over the years.
I'm surprised they haven't revived him and canceled him.
They could revive him to cancel him.
Yeah.
No, I think it's whatever you can tell the tale of whatever your imagination is fine for me, but it's just interesting. Okay. I wonder if it would be the same story and all males will be slaves and how they would perceive that kind of story. Probably everybody would be in the national news saying, what is this female talking about? How dare she enter that realm to think that we can be enslaved, so.
A small part of that reminds
me. Anyway, that's a side road because Gore the God Butcher has nothing to do with the planet Gore.
Yeah.
I read a bunch of those as a kid, though. It's funny because it took me a long while to realize that they were not good.
Well,
I mean, there you go. This idea about women wanting to be slaves was odd. Do you want to go next, Rez? Do you have something you want to play show and tell with, or tell us what you thought about it?
I have 2 books. One of them I don't have presently because I read it in store. Because I know I have it somewhere. You have books and you're like, where did I put it? But I know you guys have heard of Frederick Peters.
I actually have not heard of it.
Yeah.
Is that European?
Yes, European. It's quite old, but I wanted to go back in my collection and reread some things. And one of them was Sandcastle, which, and the reason why I kind of jumped right back into it was because I just recently saw Old by M. Night Shyamalan. So I don't know if you guys have seen that movie or heard of it as of late, but that particular movie was based off of Frederick Peters' novel Sandcastle, which it's some elements it differed quite from the movie. I found the actual graphic novel a lot better in my opinion, but I think that's always the case. But then it kind of reminded me of my love for this story, which is Pachyderm. And Pachyderm is essentially about a woman who we're introduced to her, and she is quite confused as to her setting, like she's wondering where she's at, why, she's looking for her husband, and she's just going through the novel in search of her husband, and she encounters all these different characters along her journey of trying to locate him. And she's in the midst of it, she's discovering more about herself. She has like a case of amnesia, and essentially she sees like a lot of weird, ominous, characters and horrific characters. Like she comes to encounter with this like fetal-like character monstrosity. And, it puts her over a place. She's scared. She's just trying to, figure out where her husband is and what's going on. Eventually, towards the end of the book, she finally gets to her location. And then she is visited by this very old, decaying man. He's dying, and he's letting her know, like, while she's like asleep, he's like, hey, you're going to wake up. You're going to remember where you are. You're going to be the greatest pianist, alive, blah, 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 blah. And at this moment, we realize that she's been in surgery this whole time, probably under the effects of like some kind of anesthetic. And she was just having all these crazy, weird hallucinations. as a result of the drug that she took. But it's very cerebral and surreal, which I tend to dabble into quite often.
Yeah.
But I really, really like this book, and I felt like had M. Night Shyamalan adapted this movie, it probably would have been, or maybe even fused both Sandcastle and Pachyderm somehow. It could have been a pretty, maybe a double feature, sort of. It could have been quite more memorable. Old stuck with me because I was so confused. I was like, there was things in the movie, in the film, that shocked me. Like, oh my God! But then I'm just like, okay, this is a lot, to ingest. So, but I think it's good that Frederick Peters is coming to a more of a Northern American audience. I think people are starting to kind of get exposed to him, so to speak. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book, and again I like the illustration style quite a bit. As you guys can see, it's really, really nice.
Yeah.
Very,
who published that in the U.S.?
Self-Made Hero.
Huh, I haven't heard of them.
Yeah, I used to buy quite a bit. I would go on that website and purchase a lot of the books from Self-Made Hero. You can find a lot of good indie creators on there. So sometimes it's best sometimes just go straight to the publishing house and then just go through the catalog and see what the actual description is on the back, and then just check it out. That's how I was exposed to a lot of different creators that way.
I'll have to try to remember Self-Made Hero.
Yeah, Self-Made Hero.
So I spent a good part of this week listening to the very long interview with Jeff Darrow on the Kayfabe channel. And are you aware of the Kayfabe channel, Rez?
No, I'm gonna check this out.
It's on YouTube. It's two comic book creators who put out videos. It feels like 3 or 4 a week. Where they just discuss comics and stuff they love, and they also interview people. One of them is the guy who does Red Room. What's his name?
Oh yeah. Oh my God! Me and names on the video, man. Jesus,
whenever you're on camera, names start disappearing.
Yeah.
And he did the Hip Hop Family Tree and stuff, so he's kind of half underground, half mainstream.
I do remember that underground. The Family Tree one. I remember that
so he's one of the two guys, and I can't remember his name.
Ed Piskor. There you go.
Ed Piskor. Yeah.
I was starting to think.
So after hearing and their interview with, not every interview, they put out so much stuff you can't watch it all, but their interview with Jeff Darrow was fantastic, and Jeff Darrow just seems like a fascinating guy. So I started pulling out my Jeff Darrow books. And one of the most amazing ones is this one called, what is it? Lead Poisoning, The Pencil Art of Jeff Darrow. I'm going to do my fancy camera trick. And although this book is a little too big for...
That's a beautiful book, by the way.
Nice. Thank you, Go.
So I will share my overhead camera here, my document camera. Let me move things around. So it turns, I learned from I had this book already, but I didn't really understand what it was. Everything that Jeff Darrow draws, he draws completely in pencil first. And then on a light box, he puts another piece of paper over the pencil drawing and does an ink version of it. So he owns all the pencils and has all the inks. And so they made a book just of the pencils. And somehow with the pencils, you just get even more a sense of what it's almost insane obsessive he is with his details. So this must be a page or a panel out of Shaolin Cowboy. And you can see I don't know if you guys can see it on camera, but you can see the lines. He's drawn all the architecture, and then he drew this dog over it. And you can see the lines he erased where the dog was. Anyway, I became deeply fascinated by this book. Here's a giant globe made of electric guitars. He drew every single electric guitar in here. It's just kind of insane.
Yeah, the detail, it just...
I mean, he's kind of a maniac.
Yeah. But it's so... If you watch his interview...
I know,
like,
he's... Sorry, go ahead.
Though so simple, the guy. It's just... it seems to be that he wasn't brave enough to go there and do the stuff. You know, like, it's like, oh, I don't want to borrow them. Like, both of them. Like the way he introduced himself to Mobius, it's like... Yeah, but I don't want to tell him what I do. And the minute Mobius found out that he's doing comics, it was like, dude, what the hell? You didn't tell me you own comics and stuff like that. So,
well, even though he's so humble, he somehow, and he doesn't brag about anything, he somehow manages to make friends with everybody too.
Yeah.
Like he was talking about, how he and Jodorowsky used to go to the movies together and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And Jodorowsky, who's,
So this is the pencils of a page. I can't even see it all in the camera. Pencils of a double page spread from Shaolin Cowboy. And he talks about having a movie star who came to visit him and bought art from him. And this was one of the art pieces. Who's the guy from the Titanic?
Mm-hmm. Leonardo DiCaprio.
Leonardo DiCaprio bought this page from Jeff Darrow. But I think he bought the inked page, so Jeff Darrow still has the pencils since he does it on 2 pages. And this is so big, you can see where he taped another piece of paper onto it.
I honestly really like the way they were talking about his perspective, because at the end of the day, how they talk about perspective, and I always fun, like when you draw, the perspective is the one thing you always want. If it's wide shot angles, you don't have enough ruler space for your actual perspective, find the actual lines. And the way he was talking about his dad, and then dad actually made him this table he's actually still working on, was amazing too. Just like, and both the Ed Pisco and Jim Rugg were like, oh my god, we want that kind of table. It's actually a perfect idea because of you can manufacture it. It's
Hey John DaCosta.
Apparently
Leo DiCaprio has a huge comic art collection. They were talking about it in the interview briefly.
Because of his dad. Dad is into comic books, was into comic books.
His dad into comics?
Yeah, that's why. They said his dad was basically taking Leonardo when he was young everywhere, and then he got him the bug of the collecting, I guess. And then, of course, now he has the funds, so he can buy anything he feels like it. I mean, Jeff Darrow was giving him shit once while he was going to buy, because he was pretending, wearing a hat and not wanting to be known. And Darrow realized that it was actually him, and he was giving shit because they were interacting before. And it's like, and Ed Pisco was like, what? You were giving shit to Leonardo DiCaprio? Yeah, I was just having fun, kind of thing. It's like crazy stuff like that. Yeah, it was really good interview. Absolutely fantastic.
His dad was a comic book artist?
No, his dad was a fan of comic books. He was a collector.
Well, DaCosta's saying his dad drew that Cocaine Underground comic. So maybe he at one
point... Oh, maybe. Then I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Dabbling.
Yeah, maybe.
You know what? Looking at this art reminds me how much I need to go back and read Hardboiled, with Frank Miller.
Yeah.
This is my favorite Jeff Darrow.
It's amazing. And I think that's the first time I ever saw Jeff Darrow art. But looking at this book, and if you like Jeff Darrow, I highly recommend getting this because you can just spend hours looking at it. It feels like each individual drawing should be in a museum. And they each have their own kind of bizarre take on the world and this just sort of bizarre sense of humor and a sense of sort of commentary on life in some way. This one is just, there's not enough explanation of where these come from. Like some of them I recognize from certain comics, but I have no idea where this is from. But there's this girl here, if you can see, and there's cats all around and there's garbage all over the street. And she's pulling this wagon, this Flex. I remember these kind of wagons when I was a kid. And it's just piled high with all this junk. And every single piece of junk is completely drawn. It's not like he put in shadows or hid anything. And I think he talks about why he developed his style, because he didn't want to cheat and have people think he couldn't draw things.
Yeah,
So
because
he
it's
draws every single thing to perfection. You know, a banjo, an old radio, a doll, just everything in here.
Well, another thing is that he's so insecure as well with his art. He asked Ed
Right.
Briscoe and Jim Rugg, what do you think? And it's like
Right.
they are astounded by his artwork.
He's a god to them, and he's asking them if he's any good.
Exactly. That was one side of him. I never realized that how insecure he still felt about it. And it's like, dude, you need to realize people are just like gobsmacked when they're looking at your art, but then he's still.
You would think someone who does work this crazy and this detailed would have supreme confidence. Yeah. Like he's decided it's worth spending a week on this idea for one panel or something.
Yeah. And another thing, he's also said that he wasn't, that's why the problem with the way he's drawing, it takes time and not many people want to employ him because, it takes way too long for him to do the stuff. Because, of course, look at the detail he's going into. So
I guess like on Hard Boiled, it sounded like he said that it took him a month just to do like 3 pages or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he was not knowing what he was getting himself into. Frank Miller had sort of put him on salary to work on these things out of his own pocket.
Yeah.
This is crazy here. A bunch of animals and cars are going over the edge of a building. And just there's a lot of glare, but just everything, every detail is thought out. Mm-hmm. But it's all part of this sort of wacky, uber surreal vision. I guess surrealness is most surreal when you make it really realistic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another thing which is amazing from the interview, you find out that he's going to make another Shaolin Cowboy series, which is great.
It's coming out in March, I think.
Yeah, which is this going to be the first thing I already put in my noticed things just to make sure I don't miss out on buying it.
And his imagination is just so crazy. Like a lizard is coming out of this baby's belly button.
Mm-hmm.
And of course it's a bizarro. There's like a doll coming out of the baby's headdress or something.
Oh, that's a pilot.
Oh, it's a pilot. I see. You're right. So this baby is like a ship.
Yeah.
It's just so wacky, insane. I mean, I really feel like he should be in all the best museums around the world. Mm-hmm. This is visionary and incredible art. Let's see. There's just so much here, but
I always feel like I'm looking at the work of Mobius a little bit, like.
Yeah, but more demented than Mobius.
Yeah,
Mobius is.
Mm-hmm.
And Mobius will put in a lot of detail or do very little detail, depending on what he needs to do.
Well, I think that's what initially drew me to Jeff Darrow when I picked up some of his like I said, Hard Boiled. I immediately was like, oh, this reminds me, like the elements of it reminds me, the foundations of it. But
right. Well, and so he apparently, lived in France and maybe in Paris and hung out with Mobius. I'm not clear if they shared a studio together or anything like that.
No, I think they were working together. Yeah, he said he was working there with him.
Yeah.
So, and also they were spending quite time, and he was telling about Mobius is doing some stuff, and he looks at it like, "Wow, how did you do this?" and it looks very simple for him.
Yeah. So here, for instance, they say,
Mobius has evolved.
A lot of artists complain. A lot of artists complain about drawing horses. So Jeff Darrow decided to draw hundreds of horses.
He doesn't have a problem that
to show off what he can do.
Yeah.
There's another artist. I don't know why the name eludes me at the moment, but his work is very similar to Jeff Darrow in a lot of ways. I have the book somewhere on my bookshelf, but I want to say it's John.
A comic artist or a different kind of artist?
Yes, comic artist. And I'm a huge fan. I don't know why the name. It happens. But I have
all the video.
Yeah, I have all his books upstairs, and I remember picking his work up and being exposed to it simply because I immediately thought Mobius, Jeff Darrow. It's like
right.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely a strong link between Jeff Darrow and Mobius, but I feel like Darrow is his own form of insanity.
Oh yeah.
And he loves his gore in comic form.
Yes,
He
the
says.
amount of gore. I'll get to that next time around because I also reread a Shaolin Cowboy, and the amount of gore is just mind-boggling.
I love Shaolin Cowboy. Oh,
Yeah,
Is this
fantastic.
this looks like, is this an image from
Yes.
Hardboiled?
yeah, that's Hardboiled.
Yeah.
Also, I don't even understand time-wise as an artist, why would you go into all this detail in pencil and then have to do it all over in ink afterwards? But
Well, the thing is, if you are, I
it's
think he's a
cleaner
bit of
when it's
a
in ink, I guess.
perfectionist and also insecure
Could be a Virgo.
perfectionist. Yeah, and I think that's why he can go with pencils like that, and then he makes sure everything is nice and neat, and then he's basically in his mind probably lets his mind just go via ink, so he can. Oh look, that's the concrete. Yeah.
Covered in babies for some. That's one thing. What you see, all these recurring motifs. One is babies,
Yeah.
and his babies are all kind of disturbing looking.
Oh yeah. Looks cute, to be honest.
You ready to have more babies, both of you?
I think I'll get my feet on a break.
I think he has plenty on the hands. Yeah, that's quite
That's a scare. I mean, when you think of how much work a baby is, and then you think of 100 babies flying all over the place.
I know, right? Can you imagine that rainstorm?
Oh, this is very Mobius looking. Look at that character.
That's
I bet that's
exactly.
a take on Mobius.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, it says it's Arzark.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so.
It's Arzark going shopping, but surrounded by.
You know, Arzark's one of my favorite.
He seems to be surrounded by like demon dogs with wearing dildos. You see that there? I don't know if the camera. That dog is a dildo.
Yeah, it's wearing all proper.
But it's kind of a floppy dildo. It's just bizarre.
It's not a boner, yeah? That's an ongoing theme, Res, by the way. Bonus. This is the channel for talk bonus about the whole time.
There's a grotesque robot.
That's an was it big guy?
I don't know if that is Big Guy, but it reminds me of Big Guy.
It does remind me of Big Guy.
But does Big Guy have a face like that? It's like a
I don't think
robot
it was more
skeleton face.
It was more upgraded than that.
Yeah, maybe this is a preliminary sketch.
Yeah.
Or just I don't know. I wish I do wish they would say which things are from published publications. Some of these are just like things he never published, and some are pencils from published pieces.
So Darrow did a cover for the Red Room, and I was like, "What? I haven't seen it." But I bet it's going to be quite pricey because it's one of those exclusive covers,
Right.
like those.
Well, now it's scary to think of if he does a cover that probably takes him more than a week. That's him taking a week off from doing more Shaolin Cowboy.
But apparently, the Dark Horse is pushing him to do it as quick as possible and he wanted to do just a couple of issues, and they pushed it for more.
I think he said 7 issues.
Yeah, to make more money.
Lefty Blue says, "What's the difference, Damien? Rigid versus flaccid? Do you want me to explain?" One is good for when you need to go to the bathroom, and one is good when you need to make a baby. There you go.
Is that like how the kids gonna for the boys to explain how
I've
things
explained
work?
it all. Now.
You always bring an example of spaghetti. One cooked, one.
This seems like a take on like a Conan battle scene or something.
Kim Jung-ji is a very formidable artist as well, but he can draw like from memory, and it's one of the artists you.
That guy.
Yeah, it's from Korea. He's very good as well. He can do fisheye perspective without any perspective just from his head, which is absolutely bonkers, because it just looks perfect. Like he's famous for going to draw on the whiteboards as well, which is mind-boggling. The ability that man beholds, and he's very quick as well, which is another thing, which would be frustrating.
Jeff Darrow, I think, is not quick. Miss So's asking how long does it take him to do something. I think something like this probably takes him a whole week or more, because it sounded like he said that when he's doing a comic, it sounds like he does maybe 2 or 3 pages a month.
Yeah.
Now, I have to say, like his work isn't just doing a sketch, right? A lot of thought and imagination goes into it.
Yeah.
And there's so much humor. It's just everything's packed with jokes and plays on other things.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Well, I guess I could go on all day. So, there's Big Boy with Madman.
Yeah.
It seems, he in the interview, he talks about how kind of lonely he is and he wishes he had people to hang out with, but it also seems like he's friends with everybody.
That's the little guy, the robot guy, and what is that? It's a Frank
Rusty
Miller.
and Big Guy, I think.
Yeah, I have that one in the.
It says here this is a cover to Madman #7 from 1995.
Oh, nice.
But him saying he's lonely, he wish he had friends, and him having all those friends. I think that's true of a lot of people, and they have like a ton of friends, but really they're not really close with anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's really the most loneliest people because that's why they go out their way to talk to a lot of people.
Yeah, he lives in France now.
Well, it must be tough if you're an artist, but you also like a social life. That's probably tough because you have to spend all your time alone. I feel like, in a way, extroverts are the people who feel lonely all the time, and introverts never feel lonely because they don't have that drive to be around people.
Yeah.
This is great. I guess this is a Rusty kind of Big Boy and Big Guy and Rusty, but this guy, I don't know if this was in the comic, this guy has the moon as his helmet.
Ooh.
Nothing on earth can prepare you for the power of my moon. When an evil genius harnesses the power of a planet, Big Guy faces Mr. Satellite. And in the background, everyone's head is exploding into a mushroom cloud.
Wow. Yeah.
I love his imagination. And speaking of making babies, there's a good boyfriend for you. Prepare to receive the sacred number of the Ed.
You look like he has it all. He has all the attributes you need.
Right. He's even got lizards for nipples.
And he's bringing so much to the table, as you can see.
Yes.
Scary.
Okay, well, I think I'll stop there for now.
That's a beautiful book.
I highly, if it's still in print, it's from Dark Horse, and it's a really high quality book, and it's just somehow by seeing all that without the color and without the ink, it makes me appreciate what he's doing even more. Okay, back to you, Rasa.
Oh my God! I already was thinking, it's not my turn. I'm always relaxing. Anyway, so you bestowed me with this beautiful things. So I'll mention for sure. So we mentioned peanuts in the last chat we were talking about.
Yes.
And Mr. Damien gone crazy and sent me this.
I'm an impulsive online shopper.
Yeah. So this is first 3 volumes, isn't it? Of
yes. So when does it start? 1950 something?
1950, yes, 1950s. Which I started to read. This is the slipcover is out, so I actually really enjoy this cover.
That's nice.
I really like those. So it's honestly it's beautifully well done book. So you have the first page, and then we have a complete peanuts. This look very like dreamy in this one. It's really nicely done. No color afterwards, unfortunately. But complete peanuts 1950 to 1952. Very nicely done. Where is it? Oh, it's bound and printed in China. So you have your Mr. Schultz here at his drawing table. And one thing I really absolutely enjoyed, it was introduction by Garrison Keillor. Introduction of Schultz's and his work. And then it seems to be how couple of in like a little town where he's from, which is St. Paul in America. I don't know, St. Paul what? St. Paul. Where is St. Paul? I don't know. Minneapolis? Is that what it is? Anyway, so he's discovered a child who wasn't really good in school, and blah blah blah. He had things, and then he started doing his work, and then suddenly he just wanted to draw, and then started doing dailies, and how he was trying to basically be able to draw properly, and you can see the mature styles like what we know what Peanuts are, or how he evolved them, the characters. And I was very surprised because I've never read Peanuts from the beginning. So I wasn't aware that there's like so little characters. So the first things which I read, and there's a bookmark. So we only have 3 characters involved. Is Patty still in the main group after a while?
Because I think she faded away. Later there was another Patty, Peppermint Patty, but that I don't think she.
But then she just called Patty in here first. So you have Patty, Charlie Brown, and Snoopy, and this boy's name it's barely mentioned, to be honest. So I'm not sure what his name is, but he is the basically. So we have a competition between Charlie Brown and him for Patty's affection. So Patty goes, if she gets angry, she goes for Charlie Brown, and then of course to make him feel better, then he goes for another boy, and it's brilliant, absolutely fantastic. It's just little funny notes to everything, and it's such an easy way to read. And of course, it gets better. The more you read, it becomes more funnier. Of course.
Right. It kind of builds on itself, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I honestly just managed to cover 55 pages. And I can't believe how many he has done of those things. I mean, I don't even know how many those little volumes there is. Like I've seen like 19. So it's about 14 till 1980s, I think, as far as, because it's every 2 years.
Right.
So from 1950s to 2002, isn't it? He was still working on. Yes.
Right. So imagine all those decades of producing that.
Yeah, and they continuously doing that, and you have it at the beginning. He had it in newspaper, of course. Then and apparently the St. Paul people weren't really kind of supportive of him. His mom is actually who basically pushed him to go for doing this kind of like a drawing, like to take him to just get at the comfort levels, because he was very insecure with kids and all that stuff. And then also we have afterwards there's more characters coming to introduction as well. So I'm really looking forward to what this is basically gives me is just get to know them even better from the beginning, to be honest. So you have your ideas of my favorite. Of course, I mentioned that previously in the chat was the Charlie Brown's Christmas. This is my favorite one of the things to actually watch every Christmas anyway with her. And now I'm trying to introduce that to my kid as well. So it's just some things like that. Like I have this now, of course, to be happy to myself now reading, because my son unfortunately is still not very interested. But also I have Calvin Hobbes, another thing which I want to do that with I kind of start reading with my son. But this is beautifully done. I mean, I'll show you the other volumes, which is already, I think, from 1953 to 1954. You can see his art style is already changed. So you and the panels and more story developing. Look, and you have the guy who I forgot his name now, who just so who does the piano playing and stuff like that.
Because I read these volumes with my daughter over a period of a few years at bedtime, and we noticed characters would be introduced and they would start as a baby. Often, or a toddler, and then they would grow up till about 6 or 7, and then they would stay that age. They would catch up with Charlie Brown, and like I think even Lucy starts as a baby or a toddler, and grows up to be Charlie's age.
So Lucy was introduced already in that first volume, so which was really cool. And then it's like just simple like panels in here.
Oh, and
You know,
there's
they-
baby Linus, I think.
Yeah, Linus, yeah, exactly. So he's always dirty, and then they always tries to clean him, and then clunk. It's just beautiful. It's just simplicity, and then yeah, and also what's nice about these volumes as well, they have some words. So there's lots of things to get to know. I think this one had some, of course, but maybe not even. Oh yeah, the first one has the most. No, it seems to be the. Oh wait, yeah, you still have some more people's forward by another guy, Walter Cronkite, as well. So it's really cool to.
They have Walter Cronkite doing a forward.
Yeah.
So he was the most famous newscaster announcer in the 60s and 70s
Well, there you go.
in the U.S. In the U.S.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, well, I really like this format. I absolutely adore this format. I think this is perfect little books, and they are. You look at different colors. Well, now Lucy is everywhere, as I guess Lucy will be very prominent in here. And then it's just really nicely printed. It falls out really nicely the way it was done, and then more of that. It's just beautiful. I'm utterly grateful for all this because it's just makes it me wanted to, like, as I say, read more, of course, get to know them more, and it's just happy reading the stuff like that. And I really like this one as well. It's nice and
I love Pig Pen.
Yeah. So yeah, and you have them just doing snowmans and stuff like that. So yeah, and I think apparently he was wanting to people like helped him with the Charlie Brown's the fringe, I guess, to do it correctly, because they never felt it was done correctly himself, and he was learning and stuff like that. So really good. I'm looking forward, to be honest, picking them all up. I know it's quite a few of them, but they aren't pricey in UK. For example.
Yeah, for some reason they're really a nice price on the UK.
Yeah, and so in UK,
Amazon,
yeah, I looked in other websites as well, just to comparison. And in UK, for example, one of the volumes is like what, £15. So that's nothing, to be honest, in comparison to what you actually get. So slowly, I can just basically maybe pick up every other month. So maybe I'll be able to collect it all. I'm a bit confused because they produced this small collected. Maybe it's just the chunks of the best parts, maybe of Peanuts, because they have a slipcase. And they say from 1950s to 2002s.
So it must just be a selection.
Yeah, because it only have 2-volume hardbacks, and I wonder because I haven't seen anywhere in the shops, because everywhere online you see, like if you see in Fantagraphics or whatever, it's Fantagraphics, isn't it? So,
I think it is Fantagraphics. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you look on the website, everything from web websites is all sold out. Yeah. I don't see it.
Right, but then Amazon seems to have them all.
Yeah, Gary Groff it is Fantagraphics because it's Gary Groff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So absolutely fantastic, and I'm going slowly. It's so beautiful too. I mean, it's so funny as well, and it gets better. That's the thing. With all this like little quotes and then conversations and like, oh, I'm feeling old, or she's like, oh, I need older man, but wait, I was born 3 years ago. Like, I want an older man. So that kind of conversations is beautiful. So yeah, really good. And I knew it's going to be fantastic, but I just, when you start reading it, actually have it in your hands, it makes a big difference. So yeah, really good. Yeah. And I'm glad it's influenced by you guys when your taste and stuff like that. Because I just mentioned once, and you guys like, oh yeah, we know all Peanuts about it. Our Peanuts about everything. It's like, oh, I know this and that and this. And Comickkrakk for Terrence is, of course, a big fan as well. So.
Right, and Peanuts was really big for a long time, but I suppose both of you are young enough that it might not have been that big when you were kids.
Well, I used to all the time.
Well, in America, I think more. I don't know. I wasn't in Europe.
Of course, your childhood was in Lithuania.
Yeah. So European exposure was more Disney concentrated. A lot of Disney concentrated, to be honest. I growing Donald Duck. I was obsessed with. So everything Donald Duck and whatever his family was, and Scrooge. I was always mesmerized by Scrooge jumping off in the safe in the coins, and I was thinking how amazing to swim in the coins. And I was growing. I was like, you can't do that. This is animation.
It'd be so
the beauty of it would be you're dead with your money, splattered because of the height he falls down from. So my childhood was very Disney orientated. Although a lots of Russian cartoons actually were like Tom and Jerry. We had Wolf and the Rabbit, very famous. Is called in Russian. It's called Nu Pogodi, and it's extremely popular. And I was loving it because it was almost the same kind of ideas of, a wolf was always chasing this rabbit, and rabbit is way too clever, almost like Bugs Bunny in a way. So that there's like interpretations of a few things, and lots of imaginations of whatever Disney was coming out. The Russians always had their version, and that's what I usually were watching. So. Very good.
So, Rez, you were saying that you did. I was wrong. You did grow up with Peanuts, also.
I did. Lucy was always my favorite. She's always like very forceful and just like so deeply in love with Charlie.
Well, it's funny because the way they were talking about in the books with Patty is like that almost. I think maybe it's just the number one version
early on,
of her.
Patty maybe was Lucy developed into.
Yeah.
I read a biography of Charles Schulz once, and they claimed, I'm still a little dubious, but they claimed that Lucy was based on his wife, and that he was bullied by his wife, and he took it out on her in the comics.
That's funny.
Wow.
But I wonder if that's true, because how long was he married to her? Because Lucy started so early. Anyway, it was an interesting book, but I wasn't sure if it was accurate or not.
I used to actually cut out the strips. Like that was I remember talking to you about this years ago, but the way I got into comics was cutting out newspaper strips.
I used to do that too. I would cut out my favorites, Blondie and BC and Peanuts and some others.
Yeah, and Andy's, and I would just cut them all out. Kegel, like to this day, like Kegel Comics. But he has like his whole. I think he put a lot of his catalog on his website. But Dave Kegel, I would collect his. It was very political, but I was really into that back then. I was really into political comics. And then I was really into Peanuts, of course, and Luann. I don't know if you remember Luann.
I vaguely remember that one.
Yeah.
Did you guys knew that the Peanuts you can find in the comic book format? But apparently Mr. Schulz didn't have any of involvement of those. They were done behind his back. So all those Peanuts.
Boom has published a nice hardback of those.
Yeah. So the Peanut is it in Dell? Is it Dell Publishing?
It was Dell Comics. Had a license for a while to publish Peanuts.
Apparently he didn't. Well, somewhere I read. I don't know. Oh, I think it was on the same. Was it? Would be interesting. Dell Archives were producing hardcover about Peanuts, isn't it? You have it, Damien.
I had it. I got it on Hoopla, so I read it digitally.
Oh, digitally.
I'm very tempted to buy the hardcover. I've seen it in bookstores.
Because in there, I think I read a couple of pages. I found it while scrolling, looking for the Peanuts after our conversation. I was reading a couple of, you can find a couple of pages of whatever you can purchase. So I was reading in those couple of pages, and they were saying that the actual Schulz wasn't involved in any of the covers. So they didn't. Somebody else drew it, unknown by him. And lots of the productions of the comic books, and now those comic books, if you find there's first appearance and some like Dell appeared, and they saying that's like speculations. Of course, it's the first appearance of comic book format of Peanuts. So of course, if you want to get hold of that, it's very because and then saying that Schulz wasn't even aware of that, which was crazy.
I think he was aware of it because his. Well, according to the introduction of the version I read, one of the main artists on it was a friend of his.
Oh, interesting.
And that friend did a good job of being true to his vision. And then towards the end of the book, there are ones that are done by other artists that are less true to the Peanuts, and the art doesn't look quite as Schultzian as but his friend was able to kind of imitate his style and do it very well.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Miss So, I remember doing this. She says, I used to roll silly putty on the newspaper strips to get their images on it after reading. Yeah, I was really big into using silly putty to pick up images from comics and stuff. Do they still have silly putty? They must, but I don't hear kids talking about it.
I mean, they call it slime these days.
Right, they're all into but the slime, I don't know if slime picks up pictures from newsprint the way silly putty used to.
Oh,
what is silly putty?
Silly putty was slightly different than slime.
A little more elastic, I think.
Yeah, more elastic. It was almost like one of those elastic erasers, but even more elastic.
Mm-hmm.
And, we had very little to entertain ourselves when I was a kid in the 70s. And so we were so happy. You would get this, it would come in a little egg, and you'd open it up and you'd have a piece of silly putty, and you just stretch it, press it against pictures, and pick up the images and stuff.
Yeah, do you transfer them on a fresh piece of paper, or you just?
No, it's just on the silly putty, and then you would scrunch up the silly putty, and eventually the ink would get kind of spread throughout the putty. So eventually your silly putty would turn all gray or something. I think it started out pink. But yeah, my daughter went through a huge slime phase. Did your kids do that, Rez?
Yeah, and when it started ruining the carpet.
So that slime can stick to stuff and you can't get it off.
I had to abandon that. I was like, I can't abide this, so we need to get rid of the slime.
There were probably still are whole video channels devoted to making slime videos.
Yeah, there's kids out there.
There was a phase, isn't it? Was a phase where everybody was like, let's make slime everywhere. Like YouTube even had it, and the kids were doing everywhere. And TV ads here in UK, we had a lot how to some videos of people showing how to make slime anyway. And they were like, you're entertaining your kids, not like kids ads with toys. Instead, there was like those homemade slimes and stuff like that. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. I don't want my son to get involved with slime at all, because this kid knows anything, whatever to ruin, he can. He almost ruined the walls I'm living in, which is not very good.
It's almost like appetizing because of the colors. It's so bright. You're like, for a kid, they may want to put it in their mouth,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is great.
But maybe at the right age, slime. I think there's an age at which all that tactile stuff is like good developmentally or something. Mm-hmm.
No, they're using that. You can have like a dough you make from flour as well, like a dough plaster, like like that. So
kind
it's
of
more
like
manageable.
Play-Doh.
Yeah, like Play-Doh. Yeah, your homemade Play-Doh, and he loves Play-Doh. We went in preschool, absolutely obsessed. Apparently, they have to buy a new package every single time because he just smushed them together. Like, I was like, oh shit, do I have to replace those? No, don't worry, it's part of the educational part. Like,
your son is like Terminator Jr.
Well, probably it could be, most likely.
He sounds like a destructor.
Yeah, well, I think it phases out, thankfully, for that, and thankful on that sense, because I just
all boys are like that. Let me tell you, I tell my kids all the time, I can't keep anything nice. Like,
you should see it's like the books, the first books. I keep it for memory. It's like, no, never. The books is like in 2 shreds. It's like, what happened to the book? And gives you to you like almost really, really guilty. It's like there's no book. So I'm really petrified when it comes to my collection, because he entered this room quite often. And he's like, oh, just don't touch, please don't open the drawers. Don't do this. Don't do this to me. I'll have heart attack in front of you. You don't want that. I haven't taught you how to call ambulance yet, so please wait.
Girls aren't so bad, but I do remember my daughter creating a lot of havoc at a certain time. And anytime she would grab a hold of a comic book, she would go like this with it. That would be the first thing she would do.
I would cry, literally.
I was very torn because she was interested in comic books. Oh, great, she was. But then before she would like look through it, she would just
make sure it's solid enough for my son found my Doctor Strange the omnibus, and he really likes it because such a beautiful colors, and he's like, okay, I'll show it to you, but let me flip it. And he's like, he picked the page and almost went like up and down. So, oh no, don't do this to my Doctor Strange book, please. But it's like, read it to me. It's like kind of like, read it to me. It's such a beautiful color. And actually it wasn't really child friendly, because just Dr. J is always broody in the Silver Age while Ditko was drawing him. It's like
Right.
brooding all the time. So how do you introduce that to the 3-year-old? Brooding? Maybe you know what it is.
But he'd probably like the pictures of all the dimensions.
Yeah, it's beautiful colors. I mean, it's so trippy as well.
So, Rez, do you have something else that you've read or have that you want to show us?
Yeah, I forgot about this, but my oldest reminded me that we, while picking up, what was like a trip before picking up the Censor, I picked up Creepshow because I've been watching the show as well, and because I've been watching the show, I was like, oh my god, Creepshow. And I bought it for my oldest, so I was like, yeah, get it, and I ended up reading it first. and then I said, and then so he's been reading it, and so this is his now. But
that's great that he's liking comics still.
Yeah, he's been collecting since he was 5. So he, every now and again we pick up a lot of USA Agents, and we do the Creepshow because he loves Creepshow as well. And there's a few other things he's gotten to, but I don't want to talk about every single story in here, but 2 of the stories that I really, really loved in this particular iteration of Creepshow. Oh, and just by the way, it's art by Bernie Wrightson.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
Which, immediately Scott Connor thought of that. He's a
art
aficionado, so he's got excited.
Yeah, I have a lot of like book, art of Bernie Wrightson books and stuff, and I'm Bernie Wrightson, but I love his illustrations. But one of the books, one of the actual stories in here that I really, really enjoyed was the loathsome death of Jordy Verrill. And this story in here tells of this guy who I assume the setting is the Appalachian Mountains. He's like kind of like southern, in between southern, like hick farmer kind of guy, and he actually got a loan, I guess, for his his property, and he was having trouble paying his debt off, and and then one day a meteor crashes down in his backyard of sorts, and
how convenient.
yeah, and he finds someone who sells it and gets enough cash to be able to pay off his debt so that it won't default, the loan won't default. And in this story, once he pays it off, the meteor opens and cracks open, and some like green sludge spills out, and he touches it like an idiot. The other guy he's with was like, don't touch it. He touches it anyways. And from that point on, when he's home one day, he notices that he's starting to, develop these weird symptoms. And like, his tongue, his fingertips, his tongue and his fingertips are starting to grow vegetation on his fingers. And then he goes to the doctor and he's like, son, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to cut these fingers off.
That's what you want to hear when you go to the doctor.
Yeah, exactly. He's scared as all get out. He's like, "Oh no, this is not happening. I'm not gonna lose my fingers." And then he runs back home, to drink and try to figure out what's going on and try to maybe think that he can self-medicate to stop the symptoms from happening. And everything starts turning to vegetation, and eventually he actually becomes like like Swamp Thing, kind of. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's why I love this story.
Is he shooting himself with a gun in that?
Yeah. And the funniest part is he shoots himself while the Star Spangled Banner plays on the radio. So I was like, oh my god.
Dark.
Yeah, it's dark. It's really funny. And then this other story that was really, really good was They're Creeping Up on You. It was about this really rich guy named Upston. Here it is. Let's see if I can. There we go. So this right here guy, he is like this super uber rich guy. He's absolutely like a clean freak, and he's obsessed. He's like very obsessive about being clean. And apparently something happened where one of his employees that he beat down to the ground, with all his verbal abuses, the guy went home and murdered himself. He suicided himself. and his he may end up getting a lawsuit because of it. But during this time, his whole entire apartment complex has an infestation of cockroaches.
Oh.
Yeah, it's so gross. It's like he spends this whole entire time, calling his employees and demanding that they come and get rid of the problem, the cockroaches. He's like, I'm gonna get on it. I'm gonna get rid of these. And if nobody comes in 30 minutes, you're gonna lose your job like right now. And he's like demanding that they all come to remove these vile creatures because he hates. And ominously, it's being repeated that they'll creep up on you. They get everywhere. They get in cupboards. They get in everything. And he's not taking the warnings of all these people telling him that they're not going to just be out in the open. They're obviously hiding somewhere. And eventually, throughout the night, after he speaks to the now widowed, the employee's widow, he encounters more of these cockroaches, and they eventually take over, he was being warned earlier, and then we find out that he is.
Oh my God!
Yeah, he is. Yeah. So he's constant infestation, and it was funny because the widow, she wished all this death upon him. Like, you drove my husband to madness. You killed him. I hope they have a special place in hell for you, and it continues to burn hot. And I was like, this is much worse than that.
Yeah.
That one is kind of close to home. I once lived in an apartment full of cockroaches in New York City.
I was living in a block of flats. My mom had, we were on the top floor. We were with the block of flats. So we were top, and every single time somebody moved out, somebody cleaning out, all the cockroaches coming up. Of course.
Yeah.
So my mom used to be freaking out. Like when she found out somebody moved out, she's like, this is it. We're going to be cockroaches going to be everywhere. And true. It was coming from corners and and my mom is clean. She loves clean everywhere. She hates cockroaches. She's like, now even thinking about it just makes her really furious and angry. So I remember she's like, we had this Wonder Pen, it's basically a chalk. But I remember she came back home and she's really happy. It's like, well, what happened? She's like, I found it. He found it. It's like, what did you find? And it shows this chalk. It's like, well, it's just white chalk, Mom. And she's like, she was so furious at me. How dare you tell me? I went to the shop buying this. And then actually, to be honest, she was drawing lines everywhere. I remember in the flat we were living. And it worked. I don't know what the hell that chalk is made up. I was just a child. I don't know what it was. But remember, it actually cleared the cockroaches for a period of time. I was like, wow, I hate them, to be honest. I remember them every day and all the time. And it's like, they don't die. They just don't.
I would lose weight if I went on a cockroach diet, as Ragga Muffin is. Yeah. That would be a way to lose weight.
The extra protein, there you go.
But I remember, even your child, you think, you take a slipper and you're whack. And this is it, you're gonna kill it? No, they just a while later, we just walk away. It's like, what the fuck?
It's not even just that their eggs, the eggs inside of them can spread, all over the place. But yeah, this was one thing that I remember our mom had a friend, this lady, and we had to visit her, and she was a hoarder, and she never cleaned anything, and I hated. Yeah, it was so gross going in our place because I would just stand like this, I wouldn't even let my hands touch my thigh. I was just so scared. And she would have roaches crawling on the walls and everything. And she'd be offering us food. And I'm like, Mom, why are we here? I know you can you leave, please? And she was like,
don't eat anything in that place.
Yeah. And she was like, it was nothing to her. It was not a big deal that there were just roaches crawling all over the place on the wall. It was
Yeah, they used to talk a lot about how roaches would survive the nuclear holocaust while the rest of us would die.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's really true.
Imagine the ones that came out of Chernobyl.
Well, so they're a good thing to do a horror story about. On the we got some Bernie Wrightson suggestions. I haven't heard of A Look Back by Wrightson. And I have heard of Spider-Man Hooky. Which is, it's weird to think, it's like a graphic novel about Spider-Man, drawn by Bernie Wrightson. I forget who wrote it.
Really?
Spider-Man drawn by Bernie Wrightson is kind of a surprising thing.
Yeah.
And Monsieur Maurice says Ryston art is much better in black and white, and I think Ryston often drew for black and white, right, purposefully.
Yeah.
But I think that Creepshow, he knew he was being colored. He drew it in a slightly different style.
I like both black and white and colorful.
Yeah.
Talking about artists, some guy on Twitter was posting Mobius's Punisher. I'm sorry.
Mobius's Punisher. Yeah, I saw someone posting some Mobius pictures.
Yeah, you can't really pretty clearly see it, but anyway, so I can't believe it. It's like I have a cover. Marvel was doing the Spider-Man, and there's another one of Mobius's actual lost covers he was doing, and they were publishing in Spider-Man covers. But the Punisher looks so mean, and he didn't actually do the skull. It looks like different, but so beautifully done. Mobius is you can't. It's like Bernie. It's the same thing with Bernie. I mean, Bernie's and whatever he does with black and white is just stunner.
Scott Connor is always pointing out expensive art books to me. I bet this is out of print. But I would love to know. Sounds great.
Are these tomes, like really huge tomes?
It sounds like it. One of those probably coffee table art books full of all his early work, I'm guessing.
Speaking of tomes, I've been looking for I've been hoping one day that they print a big saga tome, like a huge one.
Oh, you mean really oversized?
Yeah. Right.
Damien, it's only $700. Somebody selling it for eBay that book.
Oh, only $700.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Scott will buy it for me.
Yeah.
It's just one dude is offering for $700, another dude is offering for $200.
Oh, well, that's a bargain.
And then another one is another $700 again. So it's pick. I guess you have to choose which one you feel like. It's limited to 700. That's why.
I see Ms. So said something about the radioactive wolves and animals that thrived after Chernobyl happened.
Wow. Sounds like a real life horror story.
Yeah.
It looks
Thylox
fantastic.
the Mighty has joined us. Yeah. So I think it's my turn.
Yeah.
I will, let's see. Well, I'm this is not the main thing I'm going to talk about, but speaking of oversized tomes, I kickstarted this Nexus book by what's his name? By Steve Rude.
Yeah.
And I mean, here's a regular comic book next to it.
Oh wow.
And Steve Rude did this crazy thing, which I think was not very successful, but then where he published like 4 or 5 page episodes of Nexus as like newspaper Sunday editions. And I found a few of them at comic book stores, but then later, now he's kickstarted the whole series to make a big hardback. Whoops, I can't. So I haven't read this yet. But I guess to make it more enticing to collectors. So there's these pages are the story. I think it's like it's about 100 pages. Then he includes all the pencils.
Whoa.
So I don't know if he does pencils on a separate piece of paper too, like Darrow, or if he just took scans of all the pencils ahead of time. Steve Rude's one of my all-time favorite artists. I don't know if you can see the pencils very well. So it was worth it to me to kickstart, but it was very expensive. And then all the inks without the color. So you've got everything. I don't know if I have the script in here somewhere. This is so heavy to even hold up.
Good exercise.
Yes, I'm working out many of my upper body muscles right now.
Next video, you'll be all buff.
and then some other strips by other people at the back. Anyway, I don't know if he's selling it on the open market and for what price. I can't remember. I may have paid like $150 or something. You always pay a premium on Kickstarter.
Yeah, and it takes so long to come out as well.
Yes, it took very long, and I guess they had shipping problems. So they, there's all these problems with container ships from China.
Yeah,
and I guess they had to wait months and pay a lot of extra to get it shipped back. So let me do my. I'll also just talk. I read the first sort of graphic novella in this Junji Ito book called Love Sickness.
Mm-hmm.
And
you can do your fancy stuff.
Do my fancy thing here.
Mm.
Oh, I'll do it like this. There we go. Ooh, chimes. Are you outside?
Oh no, it's just someone keeps passing by the doorbell.
oh, that's your doorbell. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, I guess Junji Ito has at least 2 short story collections, but still in these nice hardcovers from Viz. Not quite as fancy as Censor, though. And so the first story is actually 225 pages. They could have published it on its own. And it's about this city that's always in fog. And there's a local myth that if you go at nighttime in the fog at the crossroads, you ask the first person who passes you by to tell you your fortune, and it will come true, whatever they say.
Wow.
And people are always asking about their romance and love life, especially teenage girls. And it follows this boy who left the city and is now moving back to the city in middle school. But it eventually turns out that when he was 6, someone had come to him at the crossroads and asked him what she should do about. He was 6 years old, and she asked him what she should do about being pregnant from an affair. And so, what was his answer to her? He just said, "Dummy, not a chance." And then she slit her throat and killed herself. So at age 6, he felt responsible for this woman killing herself. And now he's moved back to the town, and there's a it's this boy, this mysterious boy, who's basically he keeps showing up when girls are asking for their fortune, and he says things that always cause them to kill themselves.
Oh no.
And eventually, here's another person. They all. I wonder how easy it is to just take a box knife and slit your own throat. I don't think it's so easy, but they do it all the time in this book.
Yeah.
But so all these girls get obsessed by our hero, and here's what they start looking like.
They look very foolish
as their obsession grows with him. And eventually, people start deciding that our hero is actually this mysterious boy at the crossroads who's causing everyone to die. But all the girls in the town, for some reason, think they're in love with the mysterious boy at the crossroads. So they all start. I'm trying to find here's a crazy person who covered her body in tattoos. So it's all about. I'm not sure how to view it because it's all about women who are utterly obsessed by love to the point of dying. And that might be a very Japanese thing, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But the art is incredible. I love the way he does all these foggy nights and stuff. Let's see. It's hard to.
Mm-hmm.
But, and so anyway, eventually he's being chased all over town by all these girls who think he's that boy. But in the end, he turns out not to be. So as it goes along, there's just all these different twists and variations. Here's all the girls surrounding the evil, mysterious demon boy, shouting, I love you so much I could die, my prince at the crossroads. And I think they're all actually dead already, maybe, and they're still obsessed by him.
Jeez.
So it's kind of a crazy story.
Like voodoo, like a voodoo inspired, voodoo inspired, where they're still like they're dead, the rising dead.
Right, like the dead brought back by the voodoo priest or something.
Yeah, but it's in the form of a Japanese thriller horror.
Yeah. So I don't know. Love will do you wrong.
Always.
Love will make you look like that.
If that's how it does, I don't want it.
And the pretty boys don't care. They're just like, go ahead, die. There's all the hundreds of girls here.
Wow.
Obsessed.
Hmm.
So I enjoyed reading it, but it wasn't. I didn't enjoy it nearly as much as I enjoyed Censor. And I think part of it is because it was like one theme, you know, this obsession with love to the point of suicide, and it was just done over and over, like a new variation of it going on for 222 pages,
It's
which
like
is kind of intense. Andrew Lopez asking what manga we're looking at. It's this volume called Love Sickness by Junji Ito.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the date on it is. Let's see.
You know, I almost picked that one up. I saw it next to the Love Censor.
Yeah, I after reading Censor and liking it so much, and everybody raves about Ito, I just grabbed every Ito book they had at my store, which were 3 others.
I was tempted to do it, but I was like,
This is the first one. I have, since COVID started, I have no control in my shopping. I have compensated for what all that COVID has done to our lives by just shopping all the time, usually online, but also at my comic book store, with a mask on, of course. This is from 2011.
Food ingredients, you know.
Sorry?
Because I've gotten that way with food ingredients, like all the ones that I was missing. Like, you know, I'm like, I don't have this, so I need it. And even though I know I don't use it very often.
Right. Oh, I see amazing pictures of food from you on Instagram when I go on Instagram.
Yeah, it's my little pet passion, I guess, these days. I'm like really into creating like new culinary, you know, dishes and stuff. And you know, it's like a little you know, it's very adventurous, I say, you know, cooking with so much different. Like I was talking to one of the clerks or the owner of the store of this market, this Asian grocer, and she was just saying to me, she's like, "You're just so different. You're always getting ingredients that some people are so scared of." I'm like, you know, you gotta try it. You know, how I know I don't like it, I'll try it.
You're the adventurous cook.
Yes.
You don't, you know, flavor, not afraid of flavor, which
At
is
all.
Yeah, many people are, you know, like afraid just to see something different most of the time.
Exactly. I think that's I think it's the best way to go into life. You just try it, you know, and then you determine if you like it or not. And you know, and sometimes you might not like it first, but then you know, later on, years down the road, you end up liking it.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still cooking mostly vegan?
Yeah, all vegan, plant-based. I find that when I take a chance and go out to, you know, try to eat someone else's food, they may put animal products in the food, and you know, it's hard. So it's sometimes just better. I think with COVID, the way everything's set up, it's just I'd rather be indoors. You know, I'd rather be indoors. I'm like, you know, it's funny because I felt at one point I was like teetering that line of being an extrovert, introvert. I think I'm like, now COVID has turned me into an introvert. I'm like, no people. I don't want to be around you. Like, don't talk to me unless it's like very short and concise.
Well, that makes us extra honored that you would come on our show.
Yes.
Did you have another comic to talk about, Rasa?
Oh yeah, my last. I keep on delving into the Neil Gaiman's world, so I have a volume 6 now, and it's so this is. It seems to be maybe a theme now. It seems to be he gets a whole story for one like volume, and this one it seems to be have many. No wonder it's called Fables and Reflections. So it's very much of the fairy tale start of this. And I want to say, I was saying the previous video, I was watching some of my trades, and I wasn't enjoying my art, and everybody was like, "No, it gets better," and it's true. It's actually quite interesting the way this starts. It starts with the story of this producer who's basically about to quit his show he's created because he's afraid of failure. Mm-hmm. And it's one of his actresses comes into just to talk about his show, and the first thing he says, like, I don't know if you know, but I'm gonna quit. And then she's like, "Why? But this is your show. You produced it and everything." And I don't want to explain to you. You know, like he feels like completely like like he doesn't want to, or he's so afraid that he doesn't want anything else to try. And then, of course, it's Sandman, so he's falling asleep, and then you see him climbing. And the first thing he says, like, "Oh, it's so realistic, and I'm really afraid of climbing, but I can't help it." And his story is called "The Fear of Falling," and this is your Sandman on the top of that climbing rock, as you can see in this panel here, quite a tall rock to climb into. And so Neil Gaiman, of course, writing this, and it's Kent Williams in art, which is absolutely, I like the way he's representing our main character Sandman in here. I just really like those lines, and he's using this very free style of looking art, very like fluid and unafraid of just the drawing kind of thing. It feels the way it is. And anyway, so he's dreaming these things, and remembers the childhood experience that he's been dreaming, always falling down. So he slips from the rooftop, and he's falling, and he's kind of like realizing, this is it, I'm gonna be dying. And then he's having Kent Williams.
Kent Williams is the artist.
Yeah.
That name is only vaguely familiar. He didn't do a lot, I don't think.
I don't know. I heard of it, but I can't tell you exactly where it's from. So, and
they
then,
used to always say that if you're falling in a dream and you hit the bottom, you'll die.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of. I think that's what he's trying to do in here, with Neil Gaiman in here. So he's basically, he makes him fall again in a dream, and he basically absolutely goes crazy, like, oh my god, this is my dying time. And he wakes up, and then by waking up, he decides, okay, this is it, I'm going for it. So he's not it's basically this dream made him change his mind, because if you fall and you die, you can't do anything anymore. So he takes his chances, and that's how the story basically, this is how it starts with this volume, which was interesting how and then afterwards they introducing you to the main book, to what it's going to be like.
So that was like a prologue or something.
Basically, yeah. And then in here, in the first story, we call 3 Septembers, and then January. This was interesting story. So you have this rich guy who's about to murder himself, and this lady here who's sitting on the bed, convincing him to kill himself. Is a despair, one of the sisters of Morpheus, which I wasn't aware. I mean, kind of it was mentioning in the beginning of volumes, but that he has siblings. So Morpheus has a brother who he's not talking about, and he has 3 other sisters, and they don't look very gracious, to be honest. So she's all naked, sitting on the bed there, and then basically cutting herself and saying, "Come to the despair." My brother does have a chance. And then basically what happens is Morpheus appears in there in the same room, and they're having this conversation, or kind of like a game. Mm-hmm. So she's telling to Morpheus, saying, like, you definitely can't convince him to start living, because he's already on the verge of killing himself. And because Sandman doesn't really have those powers, dreams is not as strong as, for example, despair and humanity and stuff like that. So they have this kind of a bet, and they bet on this basically person's life, which is kind of like crazy powers they have. Anyway, so basically what he makes, the Sandman makes him dream, and in that dream he convinces him to be having one wish. And what he wants to be is he's going to be because he was a rich man who has a very successful life, but he's scaling himself because he lost everything. So Morpheus implants this idea of him. There's one way you make you happy. So he makes himself a king of the United States. So he writes this letter and declares that I proclaim myself as Emperor of the United States, and the virtue of authority I am invested, hereby order and direct representatives to differ the State of Union to assemble in music hall, and blah, 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 and to tell them that he makes himself an Emperor of the United States. So there you go. you guys have the first emperor of United States, according to Neil Gaiman. So because of his doing that, the guy of publishing the house, he gets really pissed off. How dare he? So now he walks with his attire very happily everywhere and greets everybody. It's like, oh, I am emperor of things. And then basically he gets his free meals because he's an emperor of the things. Then he gets into this kind of like situations, and then we get introduced to another sister. So this is another sister of Morpheus, and she tried to implant a suggestion.
Is that delirium?
I think so, because the way, I don't know if I can't see the name now, but the way its letterings are, they all like looks kind of a crazy, wacky ones.
Yeah,
so yeah, it's probably delirium as well.
I remember liking that character. She shows up a few times.
Yeah. So yeah, and then she implants this. I'll give you a female, love. I'm offering you love. You forget everything, whatever you have. So basically, in order to win this game, she tries to offer this guy female love in riches, and this guy says, "No, I'm happy to be emperor of the United States, the only one." So the implantation of the one thing he had, it worked really well for Sandman, and they all tried their best. They go to him. Another one, the guy comes in, this creepy looking dude comes in to offer him something else. And he is a monarch of Monkhood, a wizard of Wolfsbane, an Earl of Octane, the only king of pain. The king of pain comes to introduce himself to him as well. But that doesn't work either. So sisters are desperate. And then there's another sister, which I will go, okay, maybe you guys can remind me. So she's in this chariot, comes into... Oh, she is the one who's introduced this King of Pain, who's actually failed. So I'm not sure what her name is, as always, because, no, I can't tell you exactly who she was as well. So anyway, so those, so basically what happens, they fail. But one thing what kills him is basically walking down, he has a heart attack. And then they say, "Oh, you didn't listen to us." So he didn't really he didn't kill himself. He still lived happily being emperor of the United States, but he died of heart attack. So he's Sandman 1. Desire. There you go. Thank you very much for coming. So yeah, and then death appears, of course, just a little bit in this one story, which is great. Absolutely loved reading. And then that story was really intriguing as well.
Who was the big fat one?
Despair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Despair.
So
I know they always start with D.
Yeah, despair, desire, and delirium.
Right.
Yeah,
and then there's one called Destruction that shows up in another story. And
okay.
Some others.
Jesus. Okay.
And of course, death.
Oh yeah, death. Of course, yeah. So we have another story called Thermidor, and this was very intriguing because the main character's name is a Joanna Constantine. So is she a great grandmother of John Constantine?
I would assume so.
Because it's in 1794. So Constantine definitely isn't born.
Just on one page, that art looks stronger than the other ones.
Yeah. So this, I'll tell you who is this in art. Okay, come on. Where are you? Come show up. Show you. Oh, there you go. It's Stan Watch.
Yeah, I think he worked on the Swamp Thing a bit.
Yes, WOCH. I don't know how you pronounce it.
Yeah, I remember that name.
So that's him. So we have Joan Constantine doing the bidding for Sandman. So apparently Sandman convinced her I think she's desperate for a child. So while she was desperate for a child, he has this dilemma and she needs to go into France. And this time when she was going into France, they have this revolutionary calendar of 6th Thermidor year 2. So in France where the war's happening. So you see this head that she holds. Mm-hmm. So apparently this head is vital for Sandman because it's Sandman's son's head. And he has this ability of singing, and while he sings, he makes people like stop completely, like lifeless, dead almost. Not like in No, I don't think it's the same. Like you have that. What is that? Females with
Siren?
snakes. Yeah.
Siren,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Is
So
it
I don't.
related to Orpheus? Maybe.
His name is Orpheus. Yes.
Yeah, Orpheus was the Greek myth of the guy who went down into the
Yeah.
underworld
Oh, okay.
to save his love. I think I can't remember what happened to him, but he was
And
supposed to be the best singer in all of Greece or something.
Yeah. So basically, it's apparently his head was appearing in France, so she needed to go there. So what happens is because she's entitled, like I think she's like some sort of Duke. I don't know what. I don't remember her side of heritage anyway. But anyway, she goes into. So she goes into to save his head because it's like he's living still, even though his head is chopped, but he still can, like feel kind of thing in a way, but like a sense and talk like you have in him. Just puts his like gingerly, she puts his head on the table and just having conversation, which is that's the most bizarre way of having conversation. But anyway, so she gets in trouble because while she's going for this head, people who in charge, they found out and they captured her and asked her, what is this eluded thing you were holding? And she's pretending to be stupid. And then they found out her actual real heritage and what she's all about. What is it? There's the guy who's telling you who she is. I want to. I don't know. I can't. Of course, I can find it because when it comes to me talking in stuff. Oh yeah, there. So she's Joanna Constantine. You are the only child of Lord George and Lady Harriet Constantine. Your twin sister died soon after your birth. Then your popular rumor had it that your true father was Sir Francis Dashwood, also called Mad Menham Monks. And you are 32, you can speak perfect French, you are protege of so-called Chevalier Dion, exiled spy and enemy of France. So she's a spy, she's all sorts of things, like she can do. And in France, I guess there's a way of them to entertain themselves. So people who got heads chopped, they make them puppeteers. So they actually use their whole bodies to puppet them, and they make laugh of them, like those people who were killed. Anyway, so she achieves what she was, and then she kind of slowly finds out the true kind of relationship from Morpheus and his son Orpheus. Apparently, Morpheus completely ignores his own son, but when his son is in trouble, he's still trying to help him. So, and it's like, well, why nobody's visiting you and stuff like that, and it's like he's telling them that he's really kind of ignored by his own father. But anyway, what happens is while he's basically make them still his ability while he's singing that, so she escapes, but the demise whoever captured her was really bad. So the guy who actually captured her, he actually got his own head chopped, but he really felt it. Like as you can see, he was terrified. So he actually felt all the things. So part of the punishment. And what she does, she takes his head to Greece, Naxos. I don't know how to say it, but anyway, that's his head. Puts on the platter to the monk. Monks takes him away, and that's how they basically keep him safe. And then she say, "I never seen him before, but as the years have passed, I have on occasion seen him in my dreams." So she sees, she has a conversation with Orpheus in her dreams, which is kind of bizarre because Dad is a Sandman, so, and his realm, if he doesn't care about his own son, he wouldn't let her see him in her dreams.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. And another story, the last story is, of course,
okay.
Yeah, another story, the last one is The Hunt. So this one is about the grandfather and granddaughter. Basically, granddaughter is a teenager, and grandfather is basically telling her teenage daughter do you want me to tell you a story or not? She's like, no, I'd rather watch a telly. She's 15. She wants MTV. So the heritage is Russian, and they moved to America, I presume. So he's trying to teach his own granddaughter of the ways of the old, how where they come from and who they were, and in a way. And then he's telling this fairy tale story, you would presume. of guys who basically live in of the race of people who lives in the forest, and they're not basically seen by or they don't want to be seen by other people. And basically he has a son who is Vasily, his name, very popular Russian name. And he grows up in these woods, and then he sees this witch lady, well, old lady, traveling through the woods, which isn't very safe. And they're having this conversation, and she's like, "Oh, I have something to offer you. I'm just here to sell." And he's like curiously seeing, and the dad goes panicky because his son sees this woman. It's like, "Don't talk to anybody. They don't appreciate us who we are." And I was thinking, why they're so secretive? And at the end of the fairy tale, you actually kind of find out exactly what it is. So basically, while they're having this conversation, she gives him, because he was very nice to her, she gives him this amulet with a picture of this lady, and he takes it anyway because young kids are curious, and in each time you have this teenage girl, she keeps on interrupting him, having this fairy tale telling, and she's like, "Are you sure this is the right one?" And it's like, the woman is so immature or something like that, or she's like, "Are you sure his eyes were blue?" or something like that. So she's very annoying while he's telling her conversations. So the last thing he tells her is like, "I'm going to kill you or you listening to the story." So he was really fed up of that kind of stuff. So, and then you see the son, curiosity, decides to go and venture into the world of living. So he goes to look for this lady, and she's supposedly a daughter of this guy. And it's not a nobleman, and basically nobody's able to see her. And in the storyline, you always see he's meeting this tall guy, and it's apparently a librarian who's looking for the book, and somehow our main character has that book. And his price is, "I want to go to see her. I want her as a price." It's like, "I can't give it to you. It's impossible." So he's keep on meeting him. So he passes one land to another land while he's traveling to that castle. And he's like, "Look, I have a field of like a bag of gold to give it to you. Just give me that book." So cutting the story short, basically this librarian is actual Sandman's librarian, who is petrified, who is basically feeling like Sandman is gonna Morph is gonna murderize him because he lost the book, because he's never lost anything in from the castle. And the guys, the castle owner is the Sandman. So he's venturing in dream world. And the end of the storyline, it appears that he's actual a werewolf, because he turns into the wolf when he goes into the hunt. So this is the turn of how the people were, and the granddad actually was that boy.
And does that connect to the Russian cartoon you used to watch?
No. No.
What was that called? Wolf and
the Rabbit. No pogodi it's called in Russian.
Wolf
but
and the Rabbit.
Yeah. So yeah, it's hilarious. The wolf used to smoke. He's like he always wore a sailor's ghetto. So he's like a sailor, has always a cigarette in his mouth. That's how cartoons in Russia was teaching kids the cool cigarette in his mouth and chasing rabbit all the time. And it's just hilarious. You should guys, I need to show it to you somehow. Maybe one day I'll put this cartoon to show to you what I was talking about. But yeah, this I haven't finished this. It's absolutely fantastic. There's plenty of more to go through to read, but art is stupendous. The next one I'm reading, the storyline will be drawn by Brian Abbott. So that guy called Talbot.
Brian Talbot. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So where I was, and his art is great in here, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like he teamed up with Neil Gaiman on some other series. I can't remember which one now.
Yeah. So that's this is, and I checked that Granville in bookshop, and that art isn't great, to be honest, in there. Yeah. I was reading a couple of chapters and it didn't capture me. So I was like, okay, maybe it's better. Sometimes it's actually good to go to the bookshops when you are.
I feel like I really love Neil Gaiman when he takes kind of that fairy tale fable approach, but puts a bit of a horror twist on it all.
Is that P. Craig Russell? Wait a sec. I think it's P. Craig Russell. Yeah. Yes.
They did a few issues together.
That's one of the things I can look forward to. This is one of the last stories.
Baghdad?
Yeah, that's Ramadan is called.
Yeah. That I think that won a lot of awards. The Ramadan one.
Yeah, and it's beautiful to look at as well.
Yeah.
P. Russell is a beautiful artist.
Very true.
And with that note, I have to leave because my son is in despair and he's
Uh-oh.
not sleeping. So I need to say goodbye because I can hear him screaming and I won't be able to concentrate, honestly. So I have to say bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, thanks for lasting as long as you did.
Yeah, and then I'll see you next week, of course.
Next
hopefully,
week.
if my son will be
your
behaving.
channel next week, I think.
Yes, I think it's next my channel. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you.
And probably Earl
sorry for
and
cutting short.
Parents will be back then.
Yeah, hopefully. All right, bye.
Bye. You want to go a little longer, Rez?
Yeah, I don't mind. I actually pulled up some books that
there were. Just as Rasa was getting going, I noticed there were some questions for you.
Oh, really?
So I'm going back in the comments to find them.
Okay.
If I can. Let's see. Okay. Miss So asked, how do you like the animation trailer for Spiral, Rez? Do you know what she's talking about? Is there a new version of Spiral or is that the old movie?
The Spiral for like who's the
was Spiral a movie based on a Junji Ito comic originally in Japan?
Yeah.
And maybe they're doing had an animated trailer or doing a new animation. So maybe you don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I haven't seen the trailer for anything that I didn't know that they were actually adapting some of Junji Ito. I mean,
it sounds like it was someone saying in the comments now is an adaptation of Uzumaki.
Oh, Uzumaki! I have quite a bit of Uzumaki upstairs. I didn't know that they were doing adaptations. See, the thing is when I usually get into manga. Well, I've been doing manga I did manga before comics, really, but
right. And you sort of almost scared me off of manga.
You really? No, years ago.
What was the name of that book you gave me?
What was it? I can't remember. It was
Chobits.
Chobits. It took you forever to read.
You gave me a giant, fat, like 800-page volume of Chobits. It took me forever to read that.
You did. You gave it to Quack and Duck.
My daughter liked it a lot more than I did.
I still talk about that to this day. Like that and Love Hina are my favorites.
I think I dared you to send me Chobits or something.
You did. That's it.
So you actually did send it to me.
Oh my God, I can't remember.
Okay, well, so I guess there's maybe at least one, if not two, movie versions of Uzumaki called Spiral. And then a completely different subject, Architectural Foam Panels and Columns, who has a very cool YouTube channel, asks, curious what protein sources besides beans do you consume as a vegan?
So I, of course, I guess, I usually take a lot of vegetation. So, all vegetation typically has some source of protein in it, but my favorites are tofu. I love tofu, which derives from the bean, the soybeans.
Right.
Tempeh, again.
From soybeans.
Yeah, soybean. There's a running theme here, soybean. I'm like the version of the other half of the version of Soy Boy. I'm a soy girl.
There's a lot more protein around than people realize in grains and things like that. If you're having
grains, wheat. Yeah, I'm not really a huge fan of anything with wheat gluten in it. But lately, I have found some like I guess wheat meat substitutes, and I usually don't prepare it because whenever I make any kind of wheat gluten meat products, they just taste like a very strong wheaty product, and I don't like it. It just tastes like spices and wheat. So I'll just buy it from a lot of the Asian grocers. So and it says it's labeled vegetarian, and I'll make sure it doesn't have eggs in it. But yeah, typically a lot, like you said, grains, tofu is my biggest fave. But that's beans. I can live off beans, but before I hated beans, before I was very vegan. Yeah, chickpeas are another one of my favorites. I'm a huge fan of falafel. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see pretty much like my main inspirations and fusions of cooking are Asian and Middle Eastern. So anything you think of those in that region, I pretty much cook. I'm like really adept at cooking that. Yeah, it's pretty easy. I just stay off. I would say stay away from all the meat substitutes and stuff, because that stuff is really like sodium laden and has a lot of fat in it, and gluten could be really, really tricky to your system. Yeah.
I mean, I have a limited meat in my diet, kind of like Architectural Fun Paddle's talking about. I've actually started learning how much good nutrition is in eggs. I mean, they used to scare us off eggs, but
oh yeah, because of cholesterol.
I know if you're a vegan, you're not going to eat eggs, but
yeah.
But
I used to eat eggs before I was vegan. It was funny. I just didn't like the texture. I would make myself eat it, but
yeah. I can make a lot of things I like out of eggs. But anyway, that's people are still talking about food.
I love garlic.
So loves garlic. I love garlic too. I
probably overuse garlic. You know what my newest fave though is black garlic. I've been using that for the last 2 years. I make my own homemade black garlic salt. And I wanted to like eventually make a whole line of spices, but we'll see one of these days. I can dream.
Yeah, Blue Brick is asking for recommendations of Marvel in the early 2000s, and I would think a lot of the Max line of Marvel has good stuff in it, but I'm not an expert on that. I got like a Richard Corbin Max miniseries he did about Star the Barbarian, but that's a very un-Marvel like Marvel comic.
You know how much I love Richard Corbin.
I know you do.
Speaking of Richard Corbin, when we were talking about the other things to read, I was like, when Ross was talking, I snuck away, and I ran and got some things that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we were talking about. We were talking earlier about artists inspired by Mobius.
Yes.
So let me get some things. Let me go grab those books that those artists. And you know what? I said John. I said John. It was actually James Decoe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you remember James Decoe?
I do, and he had a book out fairly recently. Let me see.
Hey, look at that art.
I can't do. I'm trying to figure out if I could make you large and me small, but I can't seem to do that. Okay, so I'll just do a solo of you. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, you.
Oh, and that's Orc Stain. That's one of his famous early works.
Yeah, look at all that detail in there, and
yeah,
I just love. Even on the cover, you just see all the. It just reminds me so much of how it just like even like Jeff Darrow. Yeah. I'd say he took a lot of his inspo from both Jeff Darrow, maybe and Mobius as well. I just can't get enough of James Decoe. I'm when I get back and collecting, this is one of the ones that I'll be going back and trying to get all his catalog if I can. And
he just had a new mini series from Dark Horse. I'm trying to remember what it was called.
Hey.
It was kind of based on. It was like a kung fu movie kind of thing. Where the young trainee at the temple has to go fight a bunch of different bizarre villains. It was a lot of fun visually.
It was like
a 4-issue kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's probably out in trade now.
Okay, I'm gonna pick that up.
I'll try to remember the name and tweet it to you sometime.
Yes, please. And then the other person that kind of reminded me a little bit is Brandon Graham.
Oh yeah, very much so.
Yeah, he was just on the back. You see all that? My finger. There you go. Right. I love this. I just love his color schemes, the art.
Yeah.
And he's not as detailed as James Decoe,
right.
But it still reminds me sometimes of like you said, how Mobius sometimes is not as detailed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's more like the minimal side of Mobius.
Yeah. So
shows you a lot with just a simple line.
Exactly. So I ran. I was like, let me go get this. I know I have the book somewhere. And then I said, just to show Mobius, I went and got one of my. You'll also know I'm a huge heavy metal fan. So
yes.
Yeah.
That's a crazy cover alone.
Yeah.
It's by Mobius, but it's a crazy cover.
Yeah. Anytime I can collect heavy metal or metal hurlant, I try to, but there's some Mobius in here as well. I believe this issue he was featuring Airtight Garage in here. Let me see.
So the James Stucco Crack finally thought of it. Orphan and the Five Beasts is the new James Stucco.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not sure if he finished it or not. If the final issue came out, maybe my shop failed to get it for me because I can't remember it wrapping up.
Yeah, this is the air is I was right. The Airtight Garage. I haven't picked this up in so long. I can't really remember that. Look at that.
Yeah, and didn't the Airtight Garage kind of go on forever?
It did. It went on. I remember having actually some actual singles with the Airtight Garage.
Yeah, I think for a while I saw some at Dark Horse appearing in some Dark Horse comics or something. Yeah, and of course a lot of it appeared in Heavy Metal.
Yeah, and
probably Terrence has it all.
I think Corbin did this cover because immediately. Let's see, and then there's Corbin, and it's always Corbin laying throughout. I know he's in
as
here.
long as there's some Corbin and some Mobius in each issue, then you're happy.
Oh yeah. I'm just like
Den, the classic.
Yeah.
Or not early Heavy Metal Corbin.
Yeah. Didn't Terrence give me some Den one time? He gets
maybe.
Me. I think he gets me with
so much time has passed.
I know it's been so long.
I've now been on YouTube for 9.5 years. It's all a blur.
I know, right? But I mean, just looking back you just can't get any better than this stuff. You just can't get any better than Heavy Metal. Like, I'm so sad that I don't have more Heavy Metal. I have like a good file, like half a file cabinet.
When you first started your channel, I was like, wow, she has so much cool stuff. And did you have to sell a lot of that off though?
Yeah, well, I definitely try to keep on to a lot of my Heavy Metal, but a lot of stuff I did, I'd say a lot. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably gonna go through my collection and show what I still have. I have one single file cabinet full of stuff, and then 2 bookshelves of hardcovers. But a lot of my stuff is gone. I used to have bookshelf, like a whole room full of stuff. So, but yeah, if I could start my collection over, I would probably just go with anything Mobius, James Stucco, Brandon Graham, anything European, like.
My favorite comic of this year was a 5-issue Brandon Graham comic. Suddenly I'm blanking. It's called Rain Like Hammers. And I know you love science fiction too, and it is an incredible science fiction story.
Can you send that title to me so I can look it up? And
yeah, it must be out in trade now because it finished up a few months ago. And I think it's the best Brendan Graham ever, from my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, I love.
Sorry, I just realized I've been leaving you on solo. I'm making all these gestures and you can't see them.
Yeah, I love Brendan Graham. I don't know why I just I don't think I didn't realize to jump right back into it.
Yeah, Rain Like Hammers it's incredible. Every issue was double-sized, practically triple-sized, but so it must make quite a fat trade.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Speaking of Terrence, I remember this. I still have it. I was going to frame it. The Jeff Lemire comic that it was a trade that he did, a special trade with that band. It was
the one about was it about the Indian orphanages or something?
Yeah, the little boy
or schools.
Yeah, but I remember peering at that the other day, but then for some reason I somehow ended up watching TV and realized that they adapted Jeff Lemire's what is it? The Boy with the Antlers.
Right, that's out on some streaming service.
Yes, and I have all those.
Sweet Tooth.
Sweet Tooth. Yes, I have all the Sweet Tooth. And they adapted that, and I started watching it. I actually started watching it, and yeah, it's in my watch list. And I was like, I can't believe they actually adapted. I was so proud. I was like, Jeff Lemire actually has something that has been adapted to screen now.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to think of going from that kind of indie art of his to the mainstream on TV.
I know. I mean, it's because years ago,
it's very good. I haven't seen it yet.
It is really good, and I mean, honestly, years ago, I never thought he would be having his stuff adapted. I always hoped for it, but
yeah,
to see it.
Yeah, he's had a pretty incredible journey as a creator.
Yeah. I much rather see all of his stuff than see just a whole lot of Marvel stuff. I stopped watching Marvel after a while.
I couldn't stop with just that sketchbook. I also read the first volume reread the first volume of Shaolin Cowboy.
Oh yeah.
I had it in individual issues, but then I had to get the oversized copy, and I just cracked it open and read it for the first time in this oversized copy. Have you read the first series? It was very hard to get for a long time.
Yeah, I've read all the Shaolin Cowboy iterations. And
it's even crazier than I remembered. And so bloody.
Oh, that's one of my favorites. You know, zombies and that's one of my favorite horror things. Anything zombies or demonic.
Yeah. And it's so unlike any other comic. It's all this. It's like you're inside this bizarre guy's head, and this is what he's thinking. Yeah. Terrence says nice hardcover. If you're a Darrow fan, even if you already have the original comics, I recommend these hardcovers from Dark Horse because the art is just so good at this size.
I love Dark Horse Publishing House. They just
I mean, in terms of hardbacks, Dark Horse and Fantagraphics, I think, are the two best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Of course, they publish different kinds of things, but and I forgot all about his donkey, his ass, who does all the talking. The cowboy only says a few words in the entire series, but the donkey talks and talks and talks. And for me, look, this guy has like a condom balloon here. I didn't notice that. There's always more details to notice.
It's like you always notice it when you go back. You know, that's why I love reading stuff. Yeah,
I mean that's why I think some of his art should just be in museums for people to go and stare at for hours.
Oh yeah.
Oh, here's a crazy one. They didn't even see his sword go through this guy's neck. The guy still seems to be alive, but there's actually a slice of it. Oops, I'm not doing it right. The slice of his neck, which the Shaolin Cowboy then kicks out.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just, I can't really cover everything in this book because there's so much going on. Including the crab who wants vengeance on him because the Shaolin Cowboy ate all his, or maybe it's a lobster, ate all his relatives at an all-you-can-eat crab and lobster buffet.
I love the shot of the plumber's crack.
Yes. I mean, it's like he's just spent so much time thinking of every absurd detail. But the bloody moment that gets me and all the bloodiness. Let me see if I can find it.
Well, that head looks like the one out of Beetlejuice. The one that comes. Yeah, that head.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like.
And that head is like the main guy he fights during it. Like somehow this head can control any body it wants.
Oh wow!
Even though it looks like a corpse's head. Let me see though. But what happens is in all this fighting, the poor donkey's tail gets cut off. And that upset me. All the other bloodies. So, this is crazy. So the animated corpse full of bugs, grabs hold of the donkey's tail, and the donkey or the ass is shitting. It's pooping out this rain of shower that then the corpse is like trying to knock out of the way. And then to get rid of the corpse, the Shaolin Cowboy, his greatest sin, he cuts the poor donkey's tail. And for the rest of the comic, the donkey is spurting blood out of his tail, like even hours later. There's a shot. Yeah. But in the rest of the comic, we got to deal with the poor donkey bleeding out from his tail. Oh. And I don't know if the donkey ever shows up in the later volumes there. Whoops. There he's bleeding there. It is so crazy. I don't know how to describe it, but these demons have a baby and they need to take care of it because he's like some kind of carrier of some spirit, but no demon can touch the baby. Human hands have to take care of the baby. So they're trying to force the Shaolin Cowboy to become the nursemaid to this baby who has, where's the first close-up of the baby? there. The baby has these two items in its hand and blood on its hands, and it says one word, mine, over and over again. Mine.
Is that the Antichrist?
I think so. So there's this big fight with the demons and with the baby just in the background going mine, and the poor ass gets his tail cut off. And the ass keeps begging the Shaolin Cowboy to pick up his tail and put it on ice, save it some way so that he can have it reattached. But the cowboy just ignores him. And then this, the earth rises up, and it's this, where did it go? It's this giant
fissure.
Giant lizard with a city on its back. And then the lizard grabs up the Shaolin Cowboy. Did you maybe you remember this, but anyway.
Yeah.
With his great tongue. And he goes down inside the lizard's stomach and continues to have a battle with the head. And there's just this endless stuff. I guess these are like the pillars of the city go down into the lizard's stomach, because the city's on top. And there's just all this garbage and dead bodies, seagulls, lizards, little lizards inside the lizard. I like to think I have a good imagination, but I don't think I could have imagined all of this craziness.
Man, look at that right there. That whole page.
Yeah. That's the one that Leonardo Dicaprio bought.
Yeah. I mean, that's can you imagine that being like a mural on your wall? That'd be just, I stare at it all day.
And then he opens up his case and gets all this junk out of it, and somehow from it has all the pieces to build his giant stick with two what do you call them? Suddenly my brain is going. Two electric chainsaws or gas powered chainsaws. And he actually uses it to paddle through this stomach. I mean, it's such a vision of hell, this stomach full of acid juices, and there's sharks in there. The head takes control of a shark, and he has to battle sharks with his chainsaws while floating on a dead cow. Whenever there is dialogue, it's just totally a joke.
Yeah.
So the animated head that's controlling the shark's body says dorsal back, pectoral extend, now thrust to the shark. Keep your left pectoral up, parry, parry. He's saying to the shark as the shark's just being cut in half by the Shaolin Cowboy. And the Shaolin Cowboy he just stays calm no matter what's happening.
Yeah.
And then like a flight of junk coming out of the shark as he gets cut open. There's a later scene. That's hard. There's a later scene where the shark is attacking him, and he just completely splits the shark in half. Who would think about, let's do a detailed drawing of a flying shark getting split in half by chainsaws?
I know, right?
It's just nuts. And there's the end result. And the head, this demon head, is cut in half, so the dialogue balloons are cut in half. He says, ibuprofen from the two halves of his head. Is that you, dearest? Click, click, click. So I guess the demon head's wife. Now this is what this one page stuff gets lost in the crack there. Oh well. There's the demon head's wife, who is looks like a woman's head on a skeleton. Anyway, needless to say, my rereading this, my mind was blown. Seeing it big, I just caught even more details. The baby with his hands covered in blood is also a hard thing for me to look at.
You're like, I'm not touching that baby.
Someone here was talking about Darrow's photo reference. Let's see. Darrow talks about having a catalog, like one of those Sears catalogs or something that he uses for photo reference for all the different items he uses. Yeah, but he must have had a reference to sharks' insides.
Yeah.
So anyway, in the end, to me, the hero's the ass, the donkey. And it ends with a cliffhanger, which we know continues in the infamous second series that the entire series is one long battle with zombies and chainsaws. So I don't think any of this ever gets a really clear explanation. It's all just a joke.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. I love zombie. I remember the zombies in this part. I love looking.
So yeah, I am gonna go on and read more Jeff Darrow. That interview with Darrow just really set me off.
I'm gonna have to listen to that because I really like I said, I'm a big fan of his.
Yeah, and you know, some artists aren't really that fun to hear interviewed, but yes, gutter loss is my kryptonite. I live to avoid gutter loss. And it's just on that one page that has gutter loss, and I don't know why. They must have made a mistake in binding it.
I think I'm gonna have to take a trip one of these days. And you remember that old comic book store I told you about? That I think that's the one I found the Chobits at, where I had I would pick up I would end up finding a lot of little gems. You know, I might have to pay them a visit one of these days and scour through and see if I can find any of the late Mobius works and some more.
Yeah.
Rams.
Where was that shop located? Was that in Germany?
Like about 45 minutes to an hour away, out in the Tri-Cities. And,
okay. So it's within shooting distance of where you live.
Yeah.
Or driving distance, not shooting.
Yeah. But it's one of those musty old comic shops, and one of the only ones that are like musty and old, and you have to dig through these long boxes full of you gotta love places like that still kind of stay true to that. But all the other comic book shops that I've gone to, they're like really new. They have to have a cafe in it, just like ritzy. This one's like just straight to the point. You go in, and the one guy has like an encyclopedic knowledge of everything in there, even though everything's like dust covered and stuff. So
do you know if they're still in business?
I'm hoping. I think they should be. I mean, it's something that's been around.
COVID has killed so many businesses.
It has. Yeah.
But most comic shops seem to have survived.
Yeah.
A lot of my favorite restaurants around here are gone.
Yeah, it's funny because I had a farmer's market down the road, gone. They've been here for like 30 plus years. They're gone. I think maybe they moved to another area, but all the restaurants across the street are gone. I mean, a lot of places just closing up. And people just don't get it. Yeah. I'm hoping. Here's the hope. I'm kind of getting back into one. Like I said, I pick up something here and there, and the Jinju Ito, and then the Stephen King's Crip Show was like my reintroduction back into. I have read.
Is it a little easier now that your kids are a bit bigger?
Yeah, because they want to read too. They want to get, especially now that all of them are like now starting to be real prolific, and it helps with sincere.
They're all good readers. That's awesome.
Yeah. But it's really nice too that my oldest, he is so much into he sees my books and he's like, oh, I want to start my own collection.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we'll I told him, I said, whenever you're good, for your chores, you're doing your chores properly, we'll get you a book.
Jack Yo's store went out. 75 miles. That's a long way.
Yeah.
I think at that point I would just do mail order, I guess.
I have like 2 or 3 in town, but they're not decent. They're not really good. A lot of the stuff that they have in there, I'm like, I've had it at one point, or I've read it, and it's just like, it's kind of like once you read something, sometimes if it's not, and some things are just not collector items.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a tribute to you as a good mom that all your kids like to read, and not all kids do read out there. So that's really great. Well, speaking of kids, I'm going to have to take my daughter to a class soon. She's going to do acting improv.
Oh,
so I think we'll wrap up. Is there any last things you wanted? What are you going to read next? Do you know?
I saw there was like a tome, I believe, of Metal Hurlant that was eyeing recently, and I was like,
the actual Metal Hurlant in French.
Yeah, it was in French, so I was like, maybe I'm going to get that. It's been a while since I've read in foreign languages, and so I kind of want to get back into it. It's always nice to kind of reintroduce. I'm pretty sure there's somebody out there has translated it at some point, but the one I found was in French. And I'm going to see if I can look into. I want to get into some more Sean Phillips and Edward Baker. I saw that.
Oh yeah, you said you got Reckless. Have you read that one yet, or have you?
I read a few pages and then I put it down. And I usually don't do that with them because
is it the one with like the devil in the title, or is it the first one that's just called Reckless?
I believe it's the first one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, different people have different reactions to it. I think like Terrence liked the second one better. I like the first one better.
Yeah.
It's different than Criminal. It's more formulaic, I guess. It's supposed to be trying to be like those formulaic novels, men's novels back in the day. What were they called? There was one called The Destroyer, and I can't remember all the Nick Carter novels and stuff.
Yeah. There was another one too that I ran into that was very reminiscent of what's going on right now with the virus, but it was like, obviously taking more darker route and so what can happen if we have like an outbreak and then people are dying. I ran into it. I don't know why I can't remember the name, but I remember putting it on hold and I was going to read it. I'm going to come back and purchase it and read it, but I'm going to try to see if I can track that down. Because anything about viruses, zombies,
right?
I'm like really into. So.
And you said you were getting back into PKD.
Yeah, PKD. I reread Lies.Inc.
I've never read that one. He has so many novels. I feel like I've read a lot of PKD, but I've actually only read a portion of them.
Yeah, it was originally called The Unteleported Man.
Unteleported Man. Okay, I remember that title.
Yeah, and then they changed it to Lies.Inc. But what happened was I was trying to track down that missing portion. It was something that ended up being, it was a part that was published once he passed by his, I guess, one of the publishing houses that he worked with. And I was trying to track that down, but in the interim of trying to track that down, I said, let me just go ahead and give it a listen again. I know for some people, the first half of the book or something is really hard, or it's a portion of the book where he goes through a psychedelic trip on acid that is very hard for people to like read. But I found it absolutely, like to me, I just found it very entertaining. I mean, I don't know. I can get through any of his books just fine.
Yeah, I think he had a bunch of unpublished novels because they weren't science fiction. He couldn't get a publisher to take them.
Yeah.
Which now seems crazy since he's such a great writer. But at the time, if you were science fiction, they didn't want non-science fiction from you. Yeah,
and I reread Ubik.
Ubik is one of my favorites. That's a crazy one.
I wish I said one of these days I'm probably gonna get a tattoo of that spray can.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Someone should do a comic of Ubik.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
And
I'm gonna go call Jeff Darrow right now and tell him to do Ubik.
I know that would be. I would love to see his.
Probably take him 20 years to draw
it. That and Martian Time Slip. I don't know if you've ever read that one.
Is that the one where he discovers there's just like a sign on things that says what they are, or is that another one of his?
That's another one. Martian Time Slip is where this autistic child.
Oh yeah, okay. I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, it goes into like he goes in the future. It was really, it's just crazy. Every time I read it, I'm like fascinated by this whole entire book. I'm like, why has this not been adapted? Yeah. I'm always looking for like illustrations, like someone maybe has gotten inspired and wanted to illustrate a portion of that book, but you never can find anything.
Yeah. It seems like most of the time they adapt his short stories into movies.
Yeah. Like you can buy wholesale for
What?
You can buy it for wholesale.
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking. We can buy it for hosts. We can remember it for you wholesale.
Yeah. You know, that's one of my favorites too. That one and
anyway, we should probably wrap up. So it was really great to have you on, Rez, and maybe I can get you on my channel again sometime soon.
Yeah, it would be a pleasure.
This show floats between 4 different channels, but maybe we can have you in as a fill-in co-host some other times too.
Yeah.
But definitely on my channel, we'll have to have some more chats. So thanks everyone for joining us. We had some really great people in the chat, and so we'll be back next Sunday on LahRasa's channel. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.